There has been a civil war waging for the last 2 years, and those asylum seekers or economic migrants who make it from Sudan to the UK have a 99% chance of being given leave to remain. So I spent several hours talking to immigration chiefs here in Benghazi on the east side of Libya. The Libyan National Army has a very good grip on the immigration problem, albeit fighting against a huge crisis with limited resources. There is a very, very clear process of giving people proper health checks, the life-saving care that they need, and then working out where it is exactly that they've come from. Their message to the UK is that you are fueling this problem. You are effectively advertising a great new life for people from sub-Saharan Africa. They actually said, you know, what do you think happens when a guy from Sudan comes up through Libya and makes his way all the way to the UK and gets put in a luxurious hotel and provided with everything? And make no mistake, it is a perilous journey. We see it from the end point. We see the Channel crossing as the dangerous bit, but actually where these journeys begin is in the hot desert. Many tens of kilometres have to be covered on foot by these migrants, and as many as 1 in 4 do not make it. That means bodies in the desert. The Libyan authorities are having to recover bodies in the desert. About the UK and how much awareness. Please understand the scale of what we are dealing with here with very, very limited resources. Once again, you know, people come in from charities, from NGOs, they use warm words, and the authorities here told me the only thing that we ever get is maybe a few toothbrushes and some nappies for the babies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company and a very, very happy new year. Welcome to 2026. This is Talk. It's great to have your company. I'm keeping the seat warm today. Ian Collins is in tomorrow. And then, of course, Jeremy Kyle takes over for his brand new breakfast show on Monday. But there's so much to talk about between now and then, and you're very welcome to the programme. There's so much, as I say, going on. Starmer's New Year address we'll talk about in a minute. Guess what? It's been a slightly disappointing year in 2025 for Keir Starmer. Didn't know that, but he's told us that, so must be true. Also, the Home Secretary told she can deport Abdel Al-Fattah, this Egyptian who's come to this country, been given citizenship under some sort of dubious deal by the look of things. There are some very interesting thoughts about what the National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, has been up to. We'll address all of that. We'll talk about Shabana Mahmood as well, fighting the Strasbourg courts over Shamima Begum. Lots of reports that Shamima Begum wants to come back to this country. I don't think she should be anywhere near here. And digital ID for babies, that's the front page of the Mail. Also, an intruder got into Kensington Palace twice, where William and Kate live. We'll talk about all of that. And lots of other stories too. We'll look ahead to all the different aspects of what's going on in the world and in the country. We'll look at international affairs, we'll look at polling, we'll look at politics, and actually Zach Polanski, interestingly, the leader of the Green Party, has had a big interview with Gary Lineker. Unsurprisingly, Gary Lineker talking about his Gaza support as well. We'll talk about all of that. Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage making their New Year's addresses, as well as Starmer. I'm delighted this hour I'm joined by Simon Danczuk, the former Labour MP. Lovely to see you in the studio, Simon. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Peter. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we both had an early night and we're having an early morning as well. I hope that you will be part of the conversation between now and 10 o'clock. The number is 0344 499 1000. You can give me a call, get your voice on the air about whatever you think Britain's New Year resolution should be. What should the country's New Year resolution be? What should we hope for in 2026? Whatever you think that is, let me know. 0344 499 1000. You can text me at 7222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute please, 0344 499 1000. You can use that number too for WhatsApp text messages or to give me a ring as well. Loads to discuss between now and 10 o'clock, so stay with us here on Talk Breakfast. Well, if you're just waking up, a very big welcome to 2026. I'm Peter Cardwell here with Talk Breakfast. Just today, Ian's back tomorrow, as I say. Lots of political leaders, of course, welcoming you to the new year. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has talked about the problems with the economy. Thank goodness he recognises there are some. Let's have a look at what his New Year's Day message contains.
In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service. But even more people will feel once again a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better. Feel that the promise of renewal can become a reality. And my government will make it that reality. More police on the streets by March, energy bills down, and the number of new health hubs up in April. More funding for local communities. And with that change, decline will be reversed. That opportunity for you and pride in your community can be restored. I share the frustration about the pace of change. The challenges we face were decades in the making, and renewal is not an overnight job. But putting our country back on a stable footing will become our strength. Strength that means we can support you with the cost of living. Rail fares, prescription charges, fuel duty, all frozen. £150 cut from your energy bills. A boost once again to the national minimum wage. A major cut to the cost of childcare. We are getting Britain back on track. By staying the course, we will defeat the decline and division offered by others. For all the times that have been tough, I hope the festive period has brought good moments, precious time with your family, a chance to celebrate what's most important to you. I wish you more of those moments next year, when things start to feel easier, when politics shows it can help again, when Britain turns the corner, with our future now in our control. The real Britain will shine through more strongly. Happy New Year.
Yes, a very happy New Year. Simon, lots in that. We're going to get Britain back on track. We're going to begin to feel change. It's going to feel a sense of hope. There's going to be promise of renewal. Lots of optimism there from Keir Starmer. He's also doing that thing where he doesn't use verbs in sentence, where he just says, precious time with your family. Tell me your thoughts on what he's saying. He's making a lot of bold claims there. Childcare costs down, £150 off energy bills. I just don't think many people will actually believe that in terms of what they actually feel. There will be some people who'll have that, but most won't. And in contrast to what Nigel Farage said yesterday, his pretty pessimistic thoughts on that. What are your thoughts?
Starmer's just reading out a list of, of relatively small policies and giveaways, isn't he? He's lost the audience, he's lost the crowd. People are just not listening to Starmer anymore. And I think that includes his backbench Labour MPs, for that matter. I think we're going into 2026. He's desperate. He's on the front of the Daily Mirror saying, you know, we're going to have change in 2026. It's been a tough year. Things are going to get better. He's splashed on the front of the Guardian saying he's going to woo his MPs and cut the cost of living. This is just not being believed by anybody around him in terms of Labour or the wider public. He's lost the public's attention. People just do not believe him anymore. And this idea is on the front of the Telegraph as well. Starmer frustrated with pace of change.
You're the government. You're it. You're it. Change it. You know, you have awesome power, huge power, more power than anybody else in this country. As Prime Minister, sort it out. Don't talk about your frustration. Don't talk about you're furious about this. You're disappointed about the response in this. Just sort it out. You're it.
Yeah. He's been there 18 months and people are not happy. And we are in the position we are in because of the decisions he and Rachel Reeves have made. He's complaining that growth hasn't been as good as what he wanted it to be. That's because the increased national insurance in the first budget, because they've increased taxes.
Talk to any business owner who will tell you about business rates. And will say how business rates have gone up. Just yesterday I was talking about a pub, 13.5 grand of their business rates at the moment. From April that'll go up to 32,500 pounds. You've got to earn that money first. It's got to be taxed first. You've got to it's got to be part of your turnover and part of your profits. Then you've got to put that into business rates. I mean, there are many people really feeling the strain here. Do you think there'll be many people who'll see that and say, do you know what, Keir Starmer, actually you've got a point. There will be renewal and maybe we should be optimistic. Do you feel optimistic about what the government's doing? I know you're a former Labour MP. You've also been a candidate for Reform UK. I mean, should we be optimistic?
No, I think we need to be pessimistic. I think it's going to be a really tough year. I don't want to start the year on a negative note, but we're in a bad position economically. I think that's right. You're exactly right to talk about hospitality. They've been hit by business rates, reform, national insurance, energy costs. You know, I represented Rochdale as an MP. Industry is still big up there. You know, manufacturing is still big. Energy costs are crippling business, and then the national insurance on top of that, and so they're just not employing people. So unemployment is going up. The economic situation we find ourselves in is pretty desperate, and I can't see it getting any better. Even I think they will inevitably change Starmer around May, around those elections.
You think he's going to go?
I would.
In 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. I would put money on that.
That's interesting. You put money on it. That's really interesting.
And I'm not a betting man.
No,
but,
sure.
But I would put 100 quid on that.
OK, well, Zach Polanski, actually, the leader of the Green Party, says he would work with Andy Burnham, but not with Keir Starmer, if Andy Burnham became leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister. What do you make of that?
I think that's really interesting, Zach Polanski saying this. I'm always amazed that they're doing so well in the opinion polls. I think he's a complete opportunist. But what he is good at, and this is an example of it, I think, is that he's good at he's trying to appeal to Labour voters, because he knows Andy Burnham is quite popular amongst Labour voters and Labour members. So by hamming up his interest in Burnham, he's actually trying to appeal to those voters and members. So he's quite smart in terms of where he's trying to position himself. Whether Burnham can get back into Parliament to challenge Starmer is a different debate. But Polanski is doing quite well. I don't know why. I think I'm not impressed by him, but some people are. Younger people are, I think.
Yeah. Lots of people getting in touch already this morning. You're up and about nice and early. It's great to hear. And Pete has been in touch with a voice note on Keir Starmer's New Year message. This is what Pete has to say.
An absolute disgrace Keir Starmer is, using some sort of New Year's talk for a political rant and telling us all about his budget and how good they're going to be for the country. How can he stand there on New Year's Eve and lie like that? Lies after lies. That man is absolutely abysmal, and he's got nerve doing that on New Year's Eve as well, because the rest of us know that this year isn't going to be better for us, is it? It's going to be much worse under this government.
Pete's unconvinced, Simon.
I think Pete is right there. You know, and what the underlying message from some of what Starmer was saying there is that, listen, and it's a repeat of previous messages, blame the Tories. He says it's been 10 years in the making. It's been a decade
the inheritance we've received. I mean, after a year and a half of a 5-year term, if you're still talking about these problems being, as he puts them, decades in the making, years in the making, isn't it time that he starts taking responsibility?
Exactly what I was going to say. He needs to take responsibility for the situation we are in. He will have to go. Reeves will certainly have to go. I mean, it's been a disaster. And the two are inextricably linked, aren't
you're
they?
right.
There's no doubt about that. He could have possibly 6 months ago got rid of her, but now that's just not possible. They've been a disaster for the economy, and that's as we've just been saying, impacted business, but it's also impacted individuals, the cost of living. It's extremely difficult out there, more unemployment. It's going to be a tough year for many people. I'm sorry.
I think you're right. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Ian's been in touch. Says real change for real people moving forward into the future. Z. Well, Ian, don't go back to sleep. Stay with us between now and 10 o'clock. But I totally get your frustration there. We're feeling it this morning. I felt it from Pete and Simon and me as well. David in Lancashire says, Peter, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, David, and thanks to everybody else who's sending those messages in. All that idiot Starmer ever talks about is improving public services, while the productive part of the economy, the private sector and the self-employed, are on their knees. He and the rest of the grotty lot can do one, says David. Simon, it is interesting that this government just doesn't seem to get it in regard to how the private sector works. I had a really good discussion with Michael Kill from the Nighttime Industries Association yesterday, where he was, or maybe it was yesterday, where he was talking about pubs and talking about nighttime industries, the fact that everything has got more difficult. Cost of staff, cost of food, cost of booze, business rates, minimum wage has gone up, and that's good if you're on the minimum wage, but it's difficult if you're a business. And I mean, they said prices, really, the cost of running a pub has gone up by about 40% in the last few years. All the COVID legacy stuff of people not going to pubs, spending more time at home, all the rest of it. And I just wonder whether the government understands the private sector. I know you do some work now in your post-MP career in the private sector. Do you think they get it? Do you think they understand?
No, I think that's a major failing in terms of this Labour government. There are so few that have actually got any business experience. I'd run a business for over 10 years before I became a Member of Parliament, a consultancy based in Manchester. So, but I was one of very few people in the Parliamentary Labour Party who had business experience. I can count on one hand the people that I know in the Parliamentary Labour Party who have business experience. You had Ian Murray, who's still there, was in the cabinet. I think he'd run pubs before he became an MP, but he got sacked out of the cabinet. So one of the few with private sector experience. Toby Perkins, I think, had business experience. Gordon Banks had business experience. But this out of 250, 60 MPs, very few have business experience, and that shows through. And especially with the 2024 intake, I mean, many of those people have just come from being special advisors and parachuted in specifically for that general election to help prop up Keir Starmer. Well, it's not working, is it? And that's one of the significant reasons that they're failing to engage and understand business. Yeah,
well, as a former special advisor myself, I totally concur that you need more life experience than simply doing that job to become an MP and someone who runs the country. On Ian Murray, interesting one I would mention, I mean, he called Larry the cat, you know, a massive cat person, he called him a little S word. Oh, really? And then he was out of the cabinet. Coincidence? I think not. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side.
Well, our first caller of 2026, the first caller of the year, is Ivor from Hampshire, who has been in touch on 03444991000. Ivor, you're on with me, but also Simon Danchuk, the former Labour MP. A very happy new year to you. What would you like to say, Ivor?
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, I mean, I've never heard so much rubbish.
From Starmer in his New Year's message.
He's just a blinking compulsive liar.
You think so? You're not reassured when he says we've got to get Britain back to where it's meant to be, back on its feet. We're going to begin to feel positive change in 2026.
No, Peter. No, it's just complete and utter rubbish. I mean, he can't help lying. He lies through his teeth. There's no mention of him stopping the boats. I mean, doesn't he realise the anger in the country about all these people coming in?
It's a really good point, Ivor. There was nothing on immigration there, which is, of course, the number one concern of our viewers and listeners. What would you have, apart from that, what would you have liked to have heard from him, Ivor?
Well, what I'd like to hear from him is we're going to knock this stupid net zero in the head, because it's killing everything. It's killing jobs. It's killing everything there is going. And the jobs he's killed with all the national insurance rises and everything else. He's put so many people out of work. And then yesterday we hear that most of the houses are going to go to the immigrants.
Well, that's right. We're talking about that yesterday, about these council houses, and that's a really good point, actually. I'll put that to Simon Danchuk. Ivor, just stay where you are just for a second, actually, and let me put that point. I mean, Ivor makes some very reasonable points, and the point yesterday as well about 200 councils who want to get housing stock, they want to get homes built, and they want to get homes refurbished, but asylum seekers may well go to the top of the list for that. Yeah,
absolutely, because some of Starmer's solution to get illegal immigrants out of hotels is really to move them into standard housing accommodation, and so lots of housing accommodation is being prepared for illegal immigrants to go into. It's just not sustainable, is it? You know, there are illegal immigration, people coming over on small boats, has dramatically increased under this Labour government. I have complete sympathy with what Ivor's saying there, and yet the Prime Minister can't even bring himself to even mention an issue that is at the top of many people's agenda.
And of course, polling shows, we're going to talk to Joe Twyman, the pollster, a little bit later on, that immigration is the number one issue for so many people now, more than the economy, more than the NHS. Ivor, there's so much more that he could have said, isn't there?
Well, he could have done, but I don't know whether they're absolutely just so thick that they can't see the stupidity of what they're doing.
Well, we'll see if 2026 makes any difference. Ivor, thank you. Appreciate your call, and a very happy new year to you, Ivor in Hampshire, the first caller of 2026. With some breaking news, and that is that several people have apparently been killed in an explosion at a Swiss ski resort. Unverified footage shows a fire burning at one of the bars. We'll keep you updated. This is in Crans, Montana. The explosion apparently happening around at midnight last night in a bar called Le Constellation. The cause of the explosion is not known, but we will bring you more on that. Unverified footage circulating on social media showing the fire burning at a bar where New Year's Eve celebrations had been taking place. A helpline has been set up. Crans, Montana is a luxury ski resort located in the heart of the Swiss Alps, approximately 2 hours from the Swiss capital of Bern. So if there's more on that, we will of course bring it to you. I'm sure that developing story will there'll be more information on that. I just want to talk about other political leaders and their New Year's messages as well. We played Farage's message quite a few times yesterday. We'll play it again in just a minute, but I want to go to Kemi Badenoch's New Year's message now. She's the leader of the opposition in the Conservative Party. Of course, let's see what she has been saying in her New Year's message.
Happy New Year. There is a lot to look forward to this year. No, not Labour's tax rises, but a Winter Olympics, a World Cup, and for political geeks, local elections. Last year was difficult for many people. No growth, higher taxes and record unemployment, with lots of people losing their jobs. Many in our country are finding it harder and harder to imagine life getting better. But we shouldn't lose hope. Britain is not destined for decline. We are a great country full of talent, humour and strength. Things can change, but only if we have a plan for change. That's why my Conservative team are working on a policy programme to get Britain working again. A plan that will back business and fix our economy so we can fund our armed forces, police, schools, NHS, and build something that we feel proud of. Don't let the politics of grievance tell you that we're destined to stay the same. Things can change, but you also need to vote for the change you want to see in 2026. I'm not giving up on our country, and I hope you won't either. I'm wishing you all the very best for 2026. Happy New Year.
That wasn't perfect, but it was a heck of a lot better than Starmer's one. There are lots of, for people who are listening on the radio and couldn't see it, there are lots of pictures of her out and about, talking to people, talking to sort of ordinary people, talking to people like Tim Martin, who's run a fantastic and successful business with Weatherspoons. I declare that I have spent many a moon in there, and that was optimistic.
Yeah, it was, and it was optimistic and well delivered. There's no doubt about that. And Kemi Badenoch has certainly grown into the role.
She's getting better.
She has got better and better at Prime Minister's questions. She's a joy to watch. And I mean, going back to Starmer, he is like a Dalek. His delivery is particularly bad, isn't it? Whether it's to camera.
That's after the media training.
Yeah,
that's after
absolutely.
the expensive media training.
Yeah. And he's bad there to camera, and he's bad in Prime Minister's questions, and that doesn't do him any favours. But Badenoch has still got a problem. This legacy from the previous government is such an issue, and we saw it in relation to the El Fatah issue, where previous Conservative ministers had played a part in giving this guy British citizenship, and we can unpack all that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute or two, but certainly this is a major issue.
Yeah, the legacy is still an issue. People, have had enough of the Conservatives, and that's a hurdle that she has to get over. It'll be interesting to see. I think she'll go the course in 2026. She'll stay as leader. Whether she leads the Conservatives into the next general election is another question.
That's going to be a very big topic for them. No doubt a number of people want to hear what Nigel Farage has had to say, and he had his message yesterday. We did play it on the programme and on my show yesterday, but just if you missed it, this is what Nigel Farage has been saying in his New Year message. He's the leader, of course, of Reform UK.
I can't remember the country ever being gloomier. People are getting poorer, more people are becoming unemployed, inflation is proving sticky, and our debt is running completely out of control with a Chancellor who doesn't seem to have a clue what she's doing. Worse than that, people are frightened now to walk down the street wearing a watch, wearing jewellery. Oh, and by the way, if you say anything rude on Facebook, you may well get a knock at the door. We're the people offering hope. We're the people offering change. And 2025 showed you, with those county elections, which we won comfortably, what we are capable of. As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs, county elections, thousands of council seats all over the country. And yet what are we now seeing? We're seeing a Labour government saying to those councils, if you want to cancel the elections, in some cases for the second year in a row, you can do so. And already, East and West Sussex, controlled by the Conservatives, have said, thank you very much, we'll cancel the elections. That is the kind of authoritarian country that we are now living in.
I mean, in fairness, to be absolutely precise, those elections are not being cancelled, they're being postponed. But nonetheless, I believe, I said this yesterday, but I believe that if there is a 7-year period rather than a 5-year period, there should be an election after 5 years. What did you make, just briefly, of what Farage has said?
Yeah, I think he's playing it really carefully, isn't he? He doesn't want to scare the horses. They're doing very well in the opinion polls. He's identifying in that speech there, what the problems are in the country around crime and immigration and everything else. But he's being very cautious, and I think this is a continual approach that he's taking, not just in that speech, but throughout the last several months. He's been really careful in what his messages are. He's a very good communicator. I think he speaks well to the public.
Has the message changed, do you think? You're saying he's being careful. Is this almost the Keir Starmer strategy of what they call the Ming Vaz strategy? Don't break it. Just don't screw it up. Just keep the lead where it is, because it has gone down slightly in some polls. We'll talk more about the polls at 7 o'clock with Joe Twyman from Delta Poll. But it is interesting, isn't it, that this more cautious approach. It's not the big, bold Farage we've often seen, but maybe it makes him more prime ministerial.
Yeah, well, it is the Ming Vaz strategy. You're exactly right. That's how it should be described. He's being very cautious. He's walking along with this vase. He doesn't want to drop it. You know, and if you look at some of the messaging, you're right. At one time, he would be big and bold, but he were almost dragged into the debate around deportation, where Rupert Law was talking about deportation of you know, illegal migrants. Well before Farage was, but that's where the public have moved to, and he's sort of playing catch up on some issues, but he doesn't want to get there ahead of the public, and so he's being really careful. From a political perspective, I don't think it's a bad place to be, actually. I don't think it's doing him any harm. They're maintaining the lead that they have. It's interesting to see how far that can go. You know, we're way out from a general election.
I know you're a member of Reform UK. Will you be standing for them in the next election, Simon?
There's no plan for me to stand in the general election. I've done it before, and you know, I did it before Nigel was leader, so it was a whole different kettle of fish back in 2024, February 2024. But no, there's no plan for me to stand.
You say there's no plan. I mean, do you think you might end up standing?
Well, I haven't been asked, and
would you like to?
I'd be prepared to, but I think they'll have a lot of good people coming forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear from Sally, who's got in touch about Keir Starmer and Labour's message. A number of people saying, please don't play it again. Let's hear what Sally has to say.
Good morning, Peter. Happy New Year to you and yours. Well, what a new year it's going to be, isn't it? With Starmer still in place. I don't believe a word that he utters. I just wonder what state this country will be in by the end of this year. Rising bills, rising immigrants, illegal and otherwise. What's going to become of it all? They don't seem to have any plan at all except browbeat us. We can't go on like this.
Sally, thank you for that, and a very happy new year to you as well. Lots of people very annoyed with Starmer. Sharon saying they know and do not care about the hard-working people that keep this country going. She also says Starmer and the Labour government are delusional. Pete says, why have we even got these politicians' New Year messages anyway? And can they not just smile and wish us all a happy New Year rather than using any opportunity to pull a political slag-off competition? It's a disgrace. Paul says, how can anybody be proud of this country when taxation and the cost of living is through the roof? Diana Harding has been in touch and says, Happy New Year, Diana, and thanks for your messages this week. My blood pressure is boiling already, says Diana. How does Keir Starmer have the cheek to say energy bills down when at least 2 new green levies have been announced, prescriptions frozen, and a large amount, she says 90%, I'm not sure if that's true, of subscribed articles are discharged for free anyway. Fuel duty frozen, he's adding a paper mile charge instead. You only need to look at his feed on Twitter to see how he is detested. He cannot be gone soon enough. Even another day is too long for me, says Diana. And a really good point actually from Carol in Liverpool. Carol says the £150 discount on electricity bills is the warm home discount which only certain people get, and that is a very, very good point. It's not all bills. Lots of anger out there already. We're just 6.5 hours into the new year, and already Keir Starmer is saying things that people are just not happy with, Simon.
People just don't buy into what he has to say, and I think Andrew Neil, actually, who's been a broadcaster and following politics much longer than you and I certainly have, has wrote a piece not that long ago saying he can't recall a Prime Minister or a politician who's told so many untruths.
I remember that. That was quite a moment, actually, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, politicians say things and they don't really mean, or they go back and they backtrack. But it's rare for someone, especially of Andrew Neil's standing. I mean, he is a really, really good and fearless journalist, actually, I would argue, former editor of the Sunday Times, of course, and who is saying, you know, Starmer's a liar, basically, and being as explicit and straightforward as that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as callers and listeners are making clear, they completely believe that. You know, people just do not buy into what he has to say. People are also saying, and I don't blame him, please don't play the clip again.
I'm afraid they may not get their New Year's wish, because there'll be a lot of people tuning in for 7 from 7 and 8, so I'm afraid we may have to play it again. We may not play the whole thing again, but we'll play a bit more of it. David in Worcestershire says, the New Year message is diversity is not a strength, the unity is a strength. The country needs to be united, and the only thing uniting us at the moment is the hatred of this government, says David. Joanna in Salisbury says, good morning guys, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Joanna. Starmer's speech, unreal, a load of unbelievable rubbish. There is no way he actually believes his own rhetoric. You just have to watch the hands. He forgot breakfast clubs. Very important point, Joanna. We cannot ever mention the Labour government, and there are many, many achievements, without mentioning breakfast clubs. Now, I know I'm a bit sniffy about this. I don't want any child to go to school without food. Obviously, I want them to be well nourished and to have a good day at school. But I mean, Labour just go on and on and on about breakfast clubs, and a year and a half afterwards, if throwing money at the problem of malnourished kids is the only thing you've done as a government, well, Keir Starmer says there are many more things. He says there's a promise of renewal. He says that the decline will be reversed. Do you believe him? 0344 499 1000. Get your voice on the air with Simon and me. Simon's here till 7. I'm here till 10. Loads to discuss. You can send a voice note in as well on that main number, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
That's right, Jeremy Kyle's breakfast show starting on Monday, 6 a.m. Looking forward to that. Jeremy's going to do a brilliant job, and the breakfast show is going to be excellent. That's starting on Monday morning at 6 a.m. I'm here just this morning until 10 o'clock and then doing the mid-morning show tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 1. And then next week, all of next week, I'm on Drive between 4 and 7. A number of stories emerging overnight as well. Pentonville Prison, for example, pro-Palestinian supporters there saying to support the hunger strike of some of those Palestine Action accused people that are on remand. Newhall Prison as well has been affected by this. Apparently they've been dispersed, but I've got back together again, depending on some footage that's just come into our newsroom here. Apparently shouting about intifada. We've heard previously, of course, from the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, that people shouting globalise the intifada or about intifada will be arrested. It'll be interesting to see if those pro-Palestinian activists are arrested within that. Lots to talk about in regard to that. We'll also talk about the fact that there are a number of stories about immigration that are floating around this morning. More on Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, saying that she'll be fighting Strasbourg over Shamima Begum, the ISIS bride, much more than an ISIS bride, coming back. And what's really interesting, actually, was I was talking to a security expert yesterday who was telling me that, do you know what, there's actually quite a number of ISIS brides, people who said, look, I've made a dreadful mistake, I've gone out to the Middle East, I absolutely shouldn't have done that, please accept me back, that have come back. Shamima Begum hasn't been brought back. She has, of course, Bangladeshi nationality as well. This is the unrelated, separate, but not entirely unrelated matter of Ala Abdel Al Fattah as well, the Egyptian who's been given nationality and brought to this country. Keir Starmer says he's delighted. Simon Danchuk is with me, Labour MP and Reform UK member, former Labour MP and current Reform UK member. Simon, I wonder what you make of all of this. Just unpack these stories for us a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, especially in terms of Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. She's on the front of the Telegraph, vows to fight European judges over Begum, Shabina Begum, this ISIS bride who's been trying to get back into Britain for quite some time now. She stayed completely silent, didn't she, on the Al Fatah situation. You had Lamy, the Justice Secretary, you had the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, and Starmer himself coming out saying that they welcomed Al Fatah back into Britain. She stayed silent on that.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the politics of all that is that she's positioning to try and take over from Starmer, ultimately.
I agree.
And this front page story, it was in the Daily Express yesterday, I think, this story that Begum was trying to get back into Britain.
Yes, it was, yeah.
So that they broke it yesterday, and the Telegraph's picked up on it today. And I suspect that her and a team are pushing her as a hard politician who's prepared to challenge some of this immigration stuff. Now, that's the politics of it. Whether Begum can get back into Britain, her lawyers like to think that she possibly can. But as you point out, I think it's a really interesting question. The reason Begum hasn't been able to get back in is because it's always been viewed that she's still an extremist, that she still holds these extremist views. And I think it was Sajid Javid, who was the Home Secretary at the time, that stopped her coming back, took away her citizenship. She had dual citizenship. She can with Bangladesh, so she could always go back there. She has no reason not to. So she has options. But yeah, I don't think she should be allowed into Britain. I mean, if she's got extremist views, then keep her out of Britain.
And also, I mean, there was an interviewer, a documentary maker I spoke to yesterday, he said that he was pretty sure, first of all, her story has changed so many times. He says he doesn't trust her. He's interviewed her, spoken to her on numerous occasions. He says that he's pretty sure that she was sewing suicide vests for people as well. She was involved in that, he believes. So really, I mean, as I say, you know, there are ISIS brides who've come back. She hasn't, and Sajid Javid was very, very strong on that. Ala Abdul Al Fatah as well. This is just a mess for the Conservatives and for the government as well. I wonder what you make of that row, particularly not just from Shabana Mahmood's perspective, as you've said, but what happens now?
Well, I think, and you know, there are legal issues around this, but Al Fatah, I think there are still opportunities to send him back. You can pass primary legislation. The whole issue is about, unfortunately, about the European Convention on Human Rights, where previously the Supreme Court has upheld the opportunity for people like him to be able to come into Britain, irrespective of their character. And so that's what happened under the Conservatives. This Supreme Court ruling made it easier for people like him to be able to come into Britain. But you could have primary legislation if you had a majority in the House of Commons that could overturn that decision, because Parliament is you know, as sovereignty, and getting back out of the country. And I think we should be looking at that. If the opposition, Badenoch, is serious about this issue, she will try and get a debate on this and call a vote on whether he should be thrown out of the country. That's what I'd like to see early in this new year.
We'll see what happens there. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. Dave in Liverpool has been in touch, says, I don't want any child to go to school hungry. I want their parents to have the money and the gumption to ensure they're fed. Dave, that's a really interesting point, actually, on breakfast clubs. And when did it become the state's responsibility to make sure that children have food when they go to school? I mean, a couple of Weetabix and a bit of milk isn't going to break the bank necessarily, and if you're a parent, shouldn't that be your responsibility? There's so many things that schools take responsibility for now as well. There's something like a quarter of children go to school that aren't properly toilet trained or can't use a knife and fork, can't write their name. Really, really basic things that you're meant to do. I remember seeing, I had a relative who was going to school, and the list of things, and they said, you know, he's got to be able to sit there, to sit still for, you know, half an hour. He's got to be able to follow instructions. He's got to be able to use a knife and fork. Got to be able to write his name at least. Maybe be able to count to 10. Things like that. I just wonder how many children go to school actually able to do those things. Sharon says, I want Simon Danchuk to stand for the Reform government. Please do, Simon. The British people need you, says Sharon. So there we are. We've been talking about these political leaders and their messages. Let's hear from Donald Trump now. He has called for world peace. He's at Mar-a-Lago, his resort in Florida. Let's hear what the President of the United States has been saying. Oh, no, we haven't got it just yet, but we'll go to that in just a second. In the meantime, let's hear what Tristan has to say about Labour and Starmer.
Hello, Peter, Tristan in Bedford. Starmer's speech, pointless. Anyone in actual authority in government that lies like he does, he just constantly lies. And to be honest with you, most of the cabinet lie. And as what your previous caller Ivor said, net zero is killing the country. It's destroying the economy. And it's nothing to do with saving the planet or any of that rubbish. We only give away 1% of emissions. This is purely ideological, nothing more than that. We will just impoverish ourselves and outsource everything to China and just enrich China even more. Party is nothing but a disgrace, and this year is going to be even worse than last year.
Tristan, thanks for that. Happy New Year to you. Lots of people getting in touch, including Lenny in Ashford, saying, I believe the only thing Starmer is creating is anarchy, with more lies trying to cover up reality. If Starmer is so confident given the opportunity, the people show him when they're allowed to vote. Another person says, Peter, I just don't get it. Conservatives, Labour, Reform, banging on about growth and moving forward, yet they literally ignore mass immigration. I'm not sure they do literally ignore mass immigration. I do think that they're having lots of policies from the Labour government on that. Maybe they don't work, but they're not ignoring it per se. Also, the Conservatives in Reform UK, I think, have pretty strong policies on mass immigration. It depends on what they actually do. They can't do it, of course, because they're not in government. Don't they understand Brits cannot and will not move forward whilst thousands of invaders are on their streets? So thanks for your message, but I don't think you're quite right on that. They do have a plan anyway. Maybe it's not the right plan, but they do have a plan. Sandy says, Peter, I notice you keep saying local elections are not being cancelled, just postponed. They are in fact being cancelled. It's very simple. There should have been 2, but now there's only 1, we hope. Happy New Year. I will die on this small hill that they're being postponed rather than cancelled, Sandy, so I respectfully disagree with you. But thanks to everybody else who sent in lots of lovely messages about New Year. Tracy says, Happy New Year, Cardi P and all that talk. Always enjoy watching you all, Tracy. That's lovely. Jen in Wolverhampton says, 2025 has been the worst year of my life. Talk has kept me going. I hope you all carry on your excellent performance in 2026. I'll be watching, says Jen in Wolverhampton. Well, Jen, I certainly hope that 2026 is a much better year for you. I'm sorry to hear things were so tough last year. It's the first day of the year. I'm sure there are many things to look forward to, and certainly one person who's looking forward to perhaps world peace is Donald Trump, the President of the United States. We can now have a look at what he's been saying at Mar-a-Lago in Florida.
Hi, Mr. President. Hi. Mr. President, do you have a New Year's resolution?
I have.
Let's hear it.
Peace on earth.
So he talks about... let's hear what the President said.
Anything else? Any other bid? I want to thank you. Come on up on the stage. Come on up here. Come on up. Thank you very much.
So Donald Trump doing a charity auction there, talking about peace on earth. I mean, he has argued certainly that he has brought peace to many regions. Simon, you know a bit about peace on earth. You know a bit about Ukraine as well. Do you think that we will have a Ukraine peace deal this year? Is that something we can look forward to?
I think that's quite possible, and progress does seem to have been made in the last few weeks, doesn't it? And, you know, for all those that knock Donald Trump, I think, you know, in terms of this very issue, world peace...
he cares.
He certainly cares.
He's not a bomber. He's not someone who wants to start wars. He wants to end them.
Absolutely, and that's to his credit. You know, I have my wife's from Rwanda, and I have an interest there in terms of East Africa, and he's negotiated a peace deal between Rwanda and the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and so, you know, never mind, not just the bigger issues in terms of Russia and Ukraine, but even smaller issues around East Africa there. So he's very serious on this issue, and I think we should give Donald Trump more credit, and I think history will paint him in a much more positive light.
I think it will as well, actually, and I wonder if President Obama had, for example, opened up a dialogue with North Korea, they'd probably given him another Nobel Peace Prize. Great question. You're not going to know the answer because no one does. What was Barack Obama's Nobel Peace Prize for?
Oh, goodness.
No one knows. No one knows what it was for.
No.
Does he know? We'll take another call and more calls if you send them in. 0344 499 1000. Plenty more to discuss with Simon too. Stay with us here on Talk Breakfast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Obama's Nobel Peace Prize. We were wondering what it was for. No one really seems to know, least of all him. He got it for extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy between peoples. Bit vague, isn't it, Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not convinced by that at all, actually. I'd even forgot that he actually got one.
Yeah, well, indeed. Why can't we all have a Nobel Peace Prize? That's what I want to know. Darryl in Blackburn says, "Morning, Peter. Happy New Year." Happy New Year, Darryl. I've just watched Starmer's message. My energy bills have gone up today. So that's the first lie, and he's going to reverse decline. At his party conference, he said there was no decline and Britain wasn't broken. Which one is it? I think that's a very, very fair point, Darryl, so thanks for that. Also, Ian says, "Happy New Year, Peter," and all. When Starmer speaks, he's the most unrelaxed, unpassionate, monotone, unbelievable, disconnected speaker who sounds like he doesn't even believe his own words. Best wishes all, says Ian. He's not a great speaker, is he, Simon?
No, he's terrible, isn't he? He's not a good politician. That's part of his problem, actually. And we're always critical of people who do politics as a profession, but he's just not good at politics. And he's been promoted upwards, hasn't he, from being given a safe Labour seat in London through to becoming leader of the opposition, through to becoming Prime Minister. But he's just not up to the job, and people are seeing through that now.
Let's see what Neville in Norfolk thinks. Neville, you're very welcome to the programme. You're on with me and also Simon Danchuk, the former Labour MP, who's now a member of Reform UK. Neville, what are your thoughts on Starmer and what he is saying and his New Year message? Are you convinced?
Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Well, it was his normal nonsense message, but it was his usual word salad. But the word I picked out that sends a chill down my spine is with them in control. And it's their obsession with control and control of the people. Their only desire is to create an Orwellian state, and it's whether it's...
You think that's what he's doing? You think he's creating an Orwellian state, Neville?
Oh, absolutely. That is their only policy.
Really? I mean, what evidence do you have to back that up?
Sorry, I didn't hear that again. Sorry.
What makes you say that? What do you have to back that up?
Well, just about everything they do is about control, isn't it? It's the digital ID. It's the cancelling of the elections. Although you call it postponing, I would disagree.
Okay.
But anyway, it's postponing it, kicking it into the long grass as far as possible so we can't exercise our democratic right. That is control.
I don't know if you've seen this story today in the front page of the Daily Mail. I'll ask Simon about it in a second. But Neville, I'll ask you first. Digital IDs for babies. Ministers are discussing a sinister new plan in secret meetings. Newborns could be allocated digital IDs and an expansion of this controversial policy. Ministers have privately raised the prospect of issuing the new technology to children at birth, along with a red book of health records given to new parents. That is not going to disabuse you of your notion that control is the aim here.
I think that says it all, don't you? I don't think I need to say any more.
Okay. Well, Neville... Sorry, no, Neville, go ahead. You do have something else to say.
I mean, yes, they would like to put... If they could get away with it, they would do like they've done with cats and dogs and put a chip in babies when they're born. And they would love that if they could get away with it.
Well, they would be putting a chip in me, let me tell you. Neville, thank you very much for that, Neville in Norfolk. Simon, do you see this digital IDs for babies story as quite sinister? It is something, digital ID, I'm not sure it's going to work. Never mind actually be sinister. I mean, what do you think? Which is right, or maybe both are right?
I think they'll struggle to get it through, to be honest. But
the infrastructure you would need, the whole process, the planning you would need to have digital ID isn't going to work.
No, and I don't think the British public will be up for it. But this story is real, isn't it? On the front of the Daily Mail, it's quite clear that a government minister has been having secret talks about giving digital ID to babies, and citing Estonia, I think, is the model that Starmer and his colleagues would like to follow. I think it's sinister, no doubt about that. I don't think they'll get it through. I think he'll be out of office before it gets much further. but we should be worried about it. I mean, the big point here is that they claim that it will help tackle illegal immigration and, the right to work. Well, why are they giving it to babies if it's all about the right to work in the United Kingdom?
And they always said, it's just about one thing, it's just about the right to work. Well, actually, we've seen already, and we're seeing with this story, it's expanding, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with Neville on this. I think he's absolutely right. I think it is about control. It's about being able to identify who people are, manage their abilities to access different services or not being able to access the bank accounts and everything else. I don't think the British public will put up with it.
Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you for the last hour. I don't know about you, it's felt like about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
really, it's just gone very quickly. A very happy New Year to you, and thanks. Honestly, thank you for coming in on New Year's Day. It's really good of you to do so. Thanks to all the messages that are coming in as well, including from Barry, who's now in Spain. He says, we're still listening, even though we have sold up and escaped the UK. It's become too dangerous over there because neither the government nor the police are protecting normal, peaceful Britons. Happy New Year from Barry, now in Spain. Thank you. Lisa in the Ards Peninsula, beautiful start part of the world, it must be said. Morning, Peter, says Lisa. What a perfect start to the new year. You and the fabulous Simon Danchuk, happy New Year, says Lisa, which is a nice message for us both. Dave says, morning Peter, happy New Year. So Starmer wants to end division and decline. He can do that at the stroke of a pen. Call an election. Oh well, at least we have the breakfast clubs, says Dave, which is a good point. Why are they so obsessed with breakfast clubs, Simon? I don't understand it.
Goodness only knows. And I have to confess, I have have children, and it's a convenience to be able to drop your kids off, but it's a derogation of responsibility. And you should be at home having breakfast with your kids around the table. I think that's really healthy. Not discouraging that. It's not for government to discourage you building a bond every morning over breakfast. That's what we should be doing.
Thanks, Simon. Zoe in Lancashire says, happy New Year. Starmer goes on about more police in March, more renewal, great, more net zero, still going on about trying to bring us all closer as a country. It's nonsense. He's dividing us all, and now he's ruining our once great nation. Get them out there, useless cretins, says Zoe in Lancashire. And a lovely one from Tony. He says, happy New Year to the best presenter on Talk by far, says Tony. Thanks very much. Well, Julia's back on Monday. I will pass that on to her and to Jeremy as well. No, Tony, honestly, that's very, very kind. Thank you. And there's so much more to talk about. Where are we politically? Where are we going politically? Where are the parties going politically? We're going to talk to the King of Polls, Joe Twyman, who'll be with us in a second or two. He is the founder of Delta Poll, one of the biggest polling companies in the country. We'll see what 2026 is going to actually mean politically, where things are going to go, including for Reform UK, of course, and we'll take a look back, of course, at some of those New Year messages as well. I think there's perhaps not a huge amount of enthusiasm to see and hear all of Keir Starmer, so we will bring you perhaps a little clip of what he has said rather than the whole thing. So don't touch that dial. We will be back, and I'm here right through until 10 o'clock, just here this morning for New Year's breakfast, and so much more to talk about, including with Joe Twyman and you as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Get your voice on the air.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you so much to everybody who has been in touch, and a very good morning. If you're just waking up, it's a very happy new year to you. It is 2026. Loads of people sending in messages wishing us happy new year, and thank you for that, including to Nat, who has done so. Happy new year. Peter, happy new year to you, and Dimitri as well from the home of common sense. Happy new year from Cyprus, says Dimitri, so thank you for that. There's some breaking news this morning, of course. This is from Switzerland. Ambulances are on the streets outside the bar in a Swiss resort. An explosion was heard about 12:30 last night. Of course, right around the world have been celebrations for New Year, including in London. Questions as to why apparently an Israeli flag was not part of the dozens of flags that were projected onto the London Eye. We put in a query with the Mayor's office about that. But of course, many fireworks right across the world. I expect many people will have heard them last night and perhaps enjoyed them as well. Some people enjoying them less. My cat's certainly not enjoying them, let me tell you. We'll talk as well about the political future of this country, because Keir Starmer has had his New Year's address. Kemi Badenoch, Nigel Farage as well. We'll have a look at those and get your reaction as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice note, less than a minute, please. We'd have quite a few of those this morning. Keep them coming in. We'll play as many of them out as we can on the main number. Just send them in via WhatsApp, 0344 499 1000. That's the number for WhatsApp text messages, and also, of course, for phone calls too. Some news as well from Newhall Prison and Pentonville Prison, where there have been protests against, in favour, I should say, of the hunger strikers. Allegations that people have been saying globalise the Intifada. The London police have said people will be arrested for that. Don't seem to be arrests so far. We'll bring you any greater detail on that if we have it. But lots to discuss. It's a very busy start to 2026. Let's discuss it all together between now and 10 here on Talk Breakfast. And babies having digital ID as well. This is ministers discussing what the Daily Mail calls a sinister new plan in secret meetings. Also, there's a report in The Sun, an exclusive for them, about an intruder who went to Kensington Palace twice, the place, of course, where many senior royals live, including William and Kate. Helen in Yorkshire's been in touch and says babies already have a digital ID in the form of an NHS number. That should be sufficient until the national insurance number at 16. It's the immigrants, legal and illegal, who need the new digital ID. Elisa in Chelmsford has been in touch, says happy 2026. Peter, I hope Jack was okay last night with the fireworks. He was certainly not too happy, must be said. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm not against fireworks per se, and I want people to enjoy themselves and to celebrate and to have a nice new year. And, you know, fireworks on, for example, the 5th of November and so on Halloween. I'm not against it in principle, but it is just very, very difficult for so many animals who, of course, don't understand what's going on. We are a nation of animal lovers. There are fireworks that can happen that are have no sound. Maybe that's something to think about. Elisa continues, I like Nigel Farage's New Year message for his honesty. I laughed at Ed Davey because that's all we can do. And I despaired at Starmer. He made me groan as he always does. I was impressed by Kemi's message because it's important to start the new year on a positive note. And certainly I agree with you, Elisa. I think Kemi Badenoch's opening message of the new year was pretty positive. I don't think she's perfect. I don't think she's the greatest leader the Conservative Party has ever had. I don't think that she's necessarily going to be the next Prime Minister. We'll talk about that with Joe Twyman in just a second. But it'll be interesting to see how her message is received. Elisa also says it's good to start the new year on a positive note, and what better way to start 2026 than listening to Talk? Elisa, what better way indeed? Thank you very, very much indeed for that. I just want to reflect on what Keir Starmer has been saying. We've got a slightly shorter clip due to popular demand. We played the full 2.5 minute. We played the full 2.5 minute version last hour. Some people are saying, isn't there a slightly shorter clip you could show? So we're responding to public pressure and we're showing just 28 seconds of Keir Starmer. Grit your teeth and hear what the Prime Minister has to say. Let's give him a hearing and then ask Joe Twyman what he thinks. This is what the Prime Minister has been saying in his New Year's message.
In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service. But even more people will feel once again a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better. Feel that the promise of renewal can become a reality. And my government will make it that reality.
The promise of renewal. Well, do you believe there is one? 03444991000 is a promise, but is there any renewal? That's the question. Joe Twyman is the co-founder of Delta Poll, which is one of the biggest polling companies in this country. He knows politics back to front. Joe, a very happy new year to you. Thank you for getting up bright and early. I know, like me, you're not a drinker, so no hangover for you this morning. But will there be a political hangover from 2025 when we look at the polls and what Keir Starmer's been saying?
Well, happy New Year to you and all the listeners, Peter. And yes, I think if you were Keir Starmer, you might think that the whole of 2025 felt a bit like an ongoing hangover. The situation has changed remarkably in just 12 months. You and I have often discussed how it's important to look at the long-term trends in the polls rather than a specific poll. And do
you know why that is, Joe? That's because a poll is just a snapshot of public opinion on any given day. A very wise man told me that once.
My goodness, it's almost as if you've been listening. So well done, well done on that. And if you do look at the long-term trends, what you find is that this time last year, Labour had about a 4-point lead over the Conservatives. The Conservatives were in second place, and Reform were really snapping at their heels in third. 12 months later, and the situation has changed significantly, and it's changed for a long time. Reform are consistently around 10 points ahead, flirting with sort of the high 20s, low 30s, and then essentially it's a tie between not just Conservative and Labour, but also Lib Dems and Greens
and the Green Party
second place.
The Green Party have really been one of the success stories of 2025. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. We're going to talk about Zach Polanski a little bit later on in the programme. He's been interviewed, Guess Who, Gary Lineker, talking about Guess What, the Middle East. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But the Green Party has done spectacularly well. I wonder, are those Reform numbers stabilising a bit? Has Nigel Farage reached a ceiling, perhaps? What do you think about those two issues?
Well, those are two separate questions, and
Sure.
they're really interesting ones, because if you go back to May, that was the first time that the Reform Party had a consistent lead in the polls, and they've now led in every poll since the local elections of last year. But really, since the summer, certainly since September, they haven't been able to increase that lead over the other parties. They have, as I say, sort of plateaued. I mean, obviously there are fluctuations along the way, but the long-term trend has been around that sort of high 20s, low 30s point. And so at the moment, they appear not to be gaining additional votes. But the key question is, will that last? Because if you look at the history of not just Reform UK's vote, but also if you look at the Brexit Party and UKIP before that, what you find is you generally have a period of consistency followed by a big jump up. And that's what we've seen previously with Reform, and it could be, but I do stress could be, what we see, for instance, around the local elections this year. But the opposite could be true, and it could be that the support falls away as people go to the ballot box and perhaps choose other parties. And I imagine that the Greens will be one of the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, certainly what Nigel Farage has been saying. His New Year message, there's been quite a contrast between the optimism and pessimism. Starmer probably somewhere in the middle, but let's hear what Farage has been saying. This was released yesterday, but he has been talking about Britain being gloomy, but possibly being able to get it back on its feet. This is what the leader of Reform UK has been saying.
I can't remember the country ever being gloomier. People are getting poorer, more people are becoming unemployed, inflation is proving sticky, and our debt is running completely out of control with a Chancellor who doesn't seem to have a clue what she's doing. Worse than that, people are frightened now to walk down the street wearing a watch, wearing jewellery. Oh, and by the way, if you say anything rude on Facebook, you may well get a knock at the door. We're the people offering hope. We're the people offering change. And 2025 showed you, with those county elections, which we won comfortably, what we are capable of. As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs, county elections, thousands of council seats all over the country. And yet what are we now seeing? We're seeing a Labour government saying to those councils, if you want to cancel the elections, in some cases for the second year in a row, you can do so. And already, East and West Sussex, controlled by the Conservatives, have said, thank you very much, we'll cancel the elections. That is the kind of authoritarian country that we are now living in.
Joe, settle an argument for me. There have been a couple of years listeners saying that the elections aren't postponed, they're cancelled. I think they're postponed. What do you think?
Yes, they are postponed, and
they will actually happen. And what effect will that have, do you think?
Nobody really knows, because nobody knows where the polls will be once those elections do take place. The local elections, as many people will know, are always each year a strange mix of different areas, and if they don't take place this year, then they will take place in subsequent years. And in subsequent years, the situation for the parties could be radically different. Reform could be doing much better, so the chances of winning in particular areas could be significantly increased, or the opposite could be true. But these elections will take place, but there are operational issues around that. Now, whether you believe that those operational issues justify delaying or not, that's another question. But that's the argument that's being made.
I just want to look at what Kemi Badenoch has been saying in her New Year's address. Definitely more upbeat from her. She's not a perfect leader by any stretch of the imagination. I've been very critical of her at various points, but I think she got her message across quite well. We'll get Joe's perspective on this in just a second, but let's hear from the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, first.
Happy New Year. There is a lot to look forward to this year. No, not Labour's tax rises, but a Winter Olympics, a World Cup, and for political geeks, local elections. Last year was difficult for many people. No growth, higher taxes, and record unemployment, with lots of people losing their jobs. Many in our country are finding it harder and harder to imagine life getting better. But we shouldn't lose hope. Britain is not destined for decline. We are a great country full of talent, humour, and strength. Things can change, but only if we have a plan for change. That's why my Conservative team are working on a policy programme to get Britain working again. A plan that will back business and fix our economy so we can fund our armed forces, police, schools, NHS, and build something that we feel proud of. Don't let the politics of grievance tell you that we're destined to stay the same. Things can change, but you also need to vote for the change you want to see in 2026. I'm not giving up on our country, and I hope you won't either. I'm wishing you all the very best for 2026. Happy New Year.
I think it would be a real cynic who would say that Kemi Badenoch hasn't got a bit better in the last few weeks, certainly since her Conservative Party conference speech in Manchester. Has this really had any effect in the polls, Joe?
Well, yes, I would agree. I think she has done better, but that was from a pretty low starting point. And so, relatively speaking, yes, she is doing better. But in absolute terms, it hasn't made much difference to her personal rating. She was around about the sort of -5, -10 points 12 months ago, and she remains at that figure now. But if I were her, what I would be most concerned about is the fact that around about 1 in 5 people say they still don't know whether Kemi Badenoch is doing a good or a bad job. She's failed to cut through in the way that I imagine she would hope that she would have done by now, given how long she has been leader. And the question for the next 12 months is, can she continue that slow but steady improvement to actually get to a position of recognition among the general public? Because at the moment, the Conservative Party are floundering in the polls, and they're not really able to rely on her in the way that I imagine they would like.
Yeah, Joe, appreciate your analysis. No doubt we'll talk much more in 2026. Happy New Year to you, and thanks for getting up bright and early to speak to us on Talk Breakfast. Appreciate it. That's Joe Twyman there, King of Polls, who is the co-founder of Delta Poll, the polling company. Barry in Norwich has been in touch about what Starmer's renewal means. What do you think, Barry? Very happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too. Yeah, Starmer's renewal. I mean, let's stay positive, shall we? More tax rises, more boats, more houses being given to legal immigrants and not British citizens, more can't get into the doctors, more can't get a dentist, more can't get into a hospital, schools crumbling, infrastructure not working properly, more money being spent on net zero by crazy Ed Miliband running about, more money being given to countries who don't need it, like India and all the rest of the madness that they send abroad. Yeah, and, you know, the boats will keep coming because they just keep on giving them stuff, phones,
Barry,
money.
I just wonder, it's been 18 months, a year and a half since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, and in 3 days' time it'll be this year and a half anniversary. Is there anything he's done that you think is good?
No, I think the man is I think he's the worst ever Prime Minister I've ever known, and I've been alive 55 years. I just think he's absolutely useless at his job. He's useless at communicating with people. He can't talk to people. How he managed to get to the levels of KC, I will never ever know. I just think no one's listening to the Labour Party and no one's listening to the Conservative Party, because I think the majority of the country blames the Conservative Party for these loads of idiots that are in power now.
Look, I think Joe Twyman, who was on a second ago, would absolutely agree with you, Barry. And you look at the rise of particularly the Green Party on the left and Reform UK as well. I think people have just stopped listening to the main parties. Some people call them the uni party, say they're all the same. There's a lot of evidence to support that, Barry, and it seems like maybe you're one of those people.
I had enough of Labour, Conservative in that little budgerigar on that wheel, of just going round and round and round and round and getting nowhere. And it's always the same. I mean, I'm so glad. I mean, even the likes of Zach Polanski and the madman that he is, he's in second place under Reform. That just shows you where we're going, doesn't it? Yeah. I think Kemi Badenoch can promise the job to do this and do that. I just don't think no one's listening.
You don't find her. I mean, I think in the polls it's Labour that are second.
It's not that I don't find her interesting. I quite like her.
Okay.
Right. But I just don't think that anyone's listening to her because they had 14 years to do all this stuff and they didn't do it. Do you know what I mean? And I just think the state of the country and the way it is now, it's a lot to do with them. I mean, the Labour government know they're a one-term government. They know they're not going to be a two-term government, and I think they're just going to make more and more and more of a mess. And whoever comes in, probably Reform, is going to have a hell of a mess to clean up, aren't they?
Do you have faith in Reform UK? Do you think they can clean it up?
I do. I mean, I do. I vote Reform, and because, Nigel seems to be saying and doing the things that he's going to do, and people say to me, well, you can't vote Reform, that's racist, and you can't
no, it's not.
vote
No, it's not. They're wrong.
No,
that's not true.
I know that. I know.
No,
that.
I know you know that. Yeah, I know you know that, Barry. Yeah.
But that's and they say, Reform will be no good. And I always say, well, hang on a minute. Reform have never been in government, so we don't know what they're going to be like. Yeah. And I said, look at the last two parties.
This is the thing, Barry, and I wonder, I think there are a lot of people out there who think, well, why don't we just give it a go, because they can't be any worse than the other lot. I mean, it's a terrible way to think about things, and I do want people to be positive about politics, but as we know, including from what Keir Starmer has said there is so much doom and gloom about it. I mean, I'm not a supporter of any political party, actually. I used to be a member of the Conservative Party, as you know. I'm not a member anymore. I feel I'm totally politically homeless. I don't really know how I'll vote if there's an election tomorrow. But Barry, it is a fascinating situation, and it's a worrying situation for our country, because there does seem to be a complete lack of direction.
I mean, personally speaking, right, I mean, this Labour government, all the stuff that they're trying to bring in, digital ID and all that, wasn't in their manifesto.
Yeah,
right?
True.
And I personally think, I don't know if the King has the power to do this, or the Queen, or whoever the monarch is at the time. Do they have the power to say, look, this government is useless. You're wrecking my country. We need to call. No,
they don't. I mean, they just have the power. Well, it's really the Prime Minister has the power to call an election and would go to the Prime Minister, or sorry, go to the King and say, please dissolve Parliament. But it's really the King acting on advice. So no, a number of people make that point to me, Barry, and the King doesn't have the power to do that. Listen, Barry, really fascinating call. Please ring me again because you made some excellent points there, and I think you're my favourite caller all year. Cheers, Barry. Thanks very much. Jane says, Peter, that awful bloke Starmer makes my ears bleed. So glad you cut him down here. We got him down to 28 seconds due to popular demand. I've had a rotten Christmas and poorly in bed. I'm on the up now. Happy New Year to you and Jack, says Jane. Jane, thank you. I'm sorry to hear you've had a rough time. And it's never nice being unwell at Christmas. And I hope you make a full recovery and are ready to go into 2026 in happier form. Thank you to Mick, who says Starmer's New Year message is a glaring example of the misuse of AI. Gosh, harsh, but funny, and that's what matters. Mark says, Happy New Year, Peter. Wondering if you stayed up till midnight. I didn't. I tried to go to sleep around about 10 o'clock. I was, of course, woken up at midnight by all the fireworks for about 20 minutes or so, maybe longer actually. I am fortunate enough to live in London. I'm very lucky to live in London, but my goodness, was there plenty of noise last night, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to live in a nice rural area or a town where there weren't fireworks, or a village or something like that. Anyway, Mark says we're British seniors in Dorset. We had a Maldives New Year. Goodness me, Mark, lovely New Year for you. With a few friends at 8 p.m, finished by 9, home and in bed by 10. My days of staying up half the night are well over, says Mark. So they celebrated at 8 o'clock, just as the Maldives, I think, were saying Happy New Year. So that's a good one, Mark. And pretending you're in the Maldives is something that I should do a lot more of, it must be said. Just to bring you an update on what's happened in Switzerland, that explosion at the bar where people were celebrating New Year, it happened at about 1:30 a.m. Swiss time, about 30 minutes past midnight our time. There were more than 100 people in the bar where there was an explosion. This was a resort in the Swiss Alps. Several people have died. The exact number is not yet known. When we get more details about that, we will, of course, bring them to you. Plenty more to discuss. We're going to talk about a year of Trump and, well, almost exactly a year of Trump, actually. He was inaugurated, of course, on the 20th of January. Lots has happened. He's been celebrating at Mar-a-Lago. We'll talk to an expert in US politics about what he has done and what the future and what 2026 looks like for America, and specifically for us as well, actually, with those trade deals and many other aspects of the special relationship. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Loads to discuss this morning here on Talk Breakfast. Very happy New Year if you're just tuning in. It's nearly 7:30 on Thursday morning. It is the first of the month, the first of the year, of course, 2026. There's a row about the flag of Israel, which appears to actually have been on the wheel for the London Eye and the London celebrations, but no Star of David on it. So that's an interesting one. So we're asking the Mayor's office about that. Top producer Cal has put in a query to the Mayor's office about that, and if we hear from them, we will of course bring that to you before 10 o'clock. Lots of people getting in touch. There's a voice note about the local elections. This is from Carl, who has sent this in.
Hi, Peter Cardwell. Come on, they're not being postponed. They're being cancelled. They're not taking place. They're not happening. People can't vote. People couldn't vote last year. So don't sit there telling me they've been postponed. They've been cancelled. They're scared. They're running scared. You can sit there trying to defend Labour saying they've been postponed. They haven't. They've been stopped, cancelled.
Carl, the elections will happen. I'm not a defender of the Labour Party, as you know. It was my job to oppose them and say they were bad people for 3.5 years when I was a special advisor. But Carl, they have been postponed. They will happen. The elections will happen. They just won't happen until later than they would have previously. Sandy agrees with Carl and says, so should they be postponed again in future? Nothing seems certain nowadays with this Labour government. Would you still then not declare them to be cancelled? They will happen. They'll just happen later. That's a postponement. That's not a cancellation. Listen, it's a small point, but I think it's an important one. Let's talk now about American politics because the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has of course been talking about world peace. That's what he said he wanted. Let's just hear a little bit this question from a journalist. This was at Mar-a-Lago in Florida.
Do you have a New Year's resolution?
I have.
Let's hear it.
Peace on earth.
Peace on earth is what the President of the United States says he wanted. Tom Packer is a fellow at University College London Centre for US Politics. Tom, a very good morning and a very happy New Year to you. Peace on earth to you as well. Who could argue with that? Is there going to be peace on earth, especially when it comes to this Ukraine deal, do you think?
Well, I do think Donald Trump, who, for all his flaws, is actually very committed to trying to promote peace. And there's an obvious strategic interest in the United States in that if this war isn't rolling on, there isn't the same danger if China attacks Taiwan that the US will be distracted. I think he's made a lot of progress, particularly, to be honest, because he has more leverage on the Ukrainian side in reducing their demands. But the fact is, it's not at all clear that Russia will agree to those deals. We're talking about things like a guarantee of by the West of Ukrainian independence and Ukraine's current effective borders, billions of pounds in compensation to Ukraine. And we'll see if Russia is willing to go for that or Trump can persuade them. Otherwise, I think we might get an escalation of this war rather than an end.
Yeah, it's fascinating that is, of course, what he's focused on. Many people saying, of course, he's far too close to Putin and repeating claims this week of an attack on, as he put it, Putin's house, one of Putin's residences, from a drone attack, which many people say just didn't happen and is Russian misinformation. What's your reading of that situation, Tom?
I think that's an interesting question. I mean, obviously, President Trump has access to information we don't have. I don't find it. On the one hand, I think the lack of credibility, the lack of evidence is very important in once you treat the Russian claims with skepticism. On the other hand, I don't think it's completely unbelievable. And the fact is, there was a lot of talk when the pipeline got blown up to Germany that the Russians had done it, and it's since been proven that elements within Ukraine did it. So it might be less being true. Alternatively, Donald Trump has his virtues, but he's not someone who cares much about truth. So what I think he wants is to get Russia's line on the dotted line. And if he goes along with Russian BS to do it, he'll happily do so. That's in some ways a good thing, some ways a bad thing. But either way, that's what you're dealing with Trump.
What are his priorities for 2026, do you think, and how will that affect the UK, especially when it comes to trade?
So that's an interesting question. I think one will be to win the re-election in the midterms, which might be good news for us. I don't think he will, because I think it probably means he'll pull back a bit on the trade wars he's been doing, or try and keep them to unpopular targets like China, not popular ones like the UK, because that's been hurting his ratings a lot. And the Democrats are looking like a big victory in the midterms, at least for the House of Representatives, the equivalent to the House of Commons. So I think that's one big thing that will affect us. He'll continue to want these different peace treaties. So that means there might be further pressure on Ukraine to make concessions. Another thing I think he'll want is some kind of big win. So if there's some kind of big trade, this I think is the year where there's a decent chance, I'm not saying it'll happen, of some kind of big trade deal to wind up the trade wars that have been going on. And there's potentially an opportunity for Britain here, because we could become part of a deal where we get better access to the US and the EU than we currently do. But yeah, I'm dealing in deep speculation there. Alternatively, it could all escalate and we could have a worse trade war, and it could be worse for us.
Tom, thank you very much. Happy New Year to you, and I appreciate you getting up at this early hour on New Year's Day. I appreciate that. Have a wonderful 2026. No doubt we'll talk more. That's Tom Packer, who's a fellow at the University College London Centre for US Politics. One person, H, has said, Cardwell, you and Talk are so out of touch with what people are really thinking. I'm just back from a New Year's Day beach party where I met 6 Indigenous Brits who have fled Keir Starmer's Stasi regime in the last 3 months and don't intend to return to what they had to say would wake you out of your elite media bubble of BS. Right. You haven't said why I'm out of touch. You haven't said what I'm saying that's out of touch. So if you have actual allegations, maybe I can sort of deal with that, I suppose. But I'm happy to read your message. I just think you're the one who's perhaps not talking correctly. What is the real privilege, one of the many, many privileges of the job I do, which is essentially sit still on a nice chair in a nice warm studio and talk about interesting issues for 3 or 4 hours each day. It is a brilliant job. I'm incredibly lucky to do it. I'm very grateful to do it. I never lose sight of that. And what you can never lose sight of in this job is the viewers and listeners, because unlike basically every other presenter of a news programme or a discussion programme in the country, what I have is 2 screens in front of me. One of them tells me what's coming up next and the clips we have on the left and breaking news and all the rest of it. The other one tells me what people are ringing in about, what people are texting in about. I can see a live stream of people's messages. I can look on Twitter and see how people are responding. Now, not everybody. There'll be people out there watching and listening to Talk who will never send a message in, but loads of people will. And it's a really good snapshot of what our viewers and listeners are thinking. And loads of people contact me all the time. Some people contact me privately, send me direct messages, write to me, all that kind of stuff. And I have a really good relationship with people and our viewers and listeners. Now, there's some people who hate me, think I'm dreadful, think I'm a terrible presenter, never want to talk to me. That's fine. I get that. I understand that. I can't be everybody's cup of tea. But what I do know is how people are reacting very, very quickly. So it's an interesting point. I'm happy to take it. I'm happy to read it out. But I'm just not sure. I feel pretty in touch with what our viewers and listeners think. Let's talk about Switzerland, because a major emergency response is still underway and no-fly zone is in place over Crans-Montana, the Swiss resort. Several people are killed. The number is not known. This is an explosion at a ski resort bar in Switzerland. At least 10 people killed, according to one report. This explosion and fire in the Swiss ski resort bar. More than 100 people were apparently inside at the time of the incident. It took place, of course, during New Year's Eve celebrations, about 1:30 in the morning Swiss time, but 12:30 our time. Hospitals in Switzerland are apparently overwhelmed with burns victims. Police spokesman has been saying, and there's some videos online showing the fire and the emergency response as well. The police actually now, Swiss police, have told Sky News that at least 10 people are dead and 10 others are injured. They confirmed the incident is not being treated as terror-related. A police spokesman said, "We're seeing many injured and many dead." The blast and subsequent fire took place during New Year celebrations at Le Constellation Bar and Lounge at the Alpine Ski Resort at Crans-Montana in Switzerland. It took place at midnight our time, 1:30 Swiss time. Lots of people who are getting in touch about all sorts of issues, including whether the local elections are cancelled or postponed. Really, there are bigger issues in the world, but it's a small hill on which I will die. Ed says, Cardi P, if your train was cancelled by a year, you would call it cancelled, not delayed, says Ed, which is a fair point. I mean, most Most trains are not delayed by that length of time, but certainly in this country we do experience many train delays. Lots more to talk about in just a second. We're going to talk about migration, what the picture's going to be this year. Robert Bates is standing by. He's the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. I want to hear lots more of your thoughts as well. Whatever's on the tip of your tongue, 0344 499 1000. Give me a shout here at Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you to everybody who's been in touch, including Sean in Bridlington, who says, my message for you today is Happy New Year, but prepare yourself for an even worse one than last year. There's no prospect of any improvement until this vile, incompetent, Britain-hating government is removed. That's Sean in Bridlington. Pete says, you're okay in my book, Peter, from one controversial Pete to another. Keep up the pressure on Bob Vile one, as he mustn't be allowed to get away with his hatred speech. Well, thank you for that. I have had a sort of one-man campaign to get Pascal Robinson-Foster arrested and charged. I don't think it's going to happen, and even on Somerset Police are in a position where they, on the Crown Prosecution Service, say is not going to be charged. But listen, that was one of the absolute disgraceful stories of 2025. Let's talk about migration now, and we've got Robert Bates with us, who is the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Robert, you're very welcome to the programme. Thank you for getting up this early on New Year's Day. Very happy New Year to you. By late 2025, we've had over 41,000 small boat migrants. Just put that in context for me. We haven't got the full annual total just yet, but we know it's going to be over 41,000. Just put that in context, how that compares with other years, and what you think the outlook for 2026 migration-wise is.
So last year we saw a blistering start with the small boats numbers, and it looked until the last few months of the year like it was going to be the worst year on record. Fortunately, from the Labour Party's point of view, what actually happened was we had some inclement weather, and we had some difficult conditions in the Channel, which slowed down those crossings in December and late November, which meant that actually we ended up with that figure of 41,000, which is slightly lower than the record figure in 2022. But I think actually going into 2026, what we need to realise now is that those underlying conditions that saw the situation almost explode out of control in many people's mind are still in place, and actually what the Labour government have done since coming in to office is remove a lot of the infrastructure that was being put in place to deter those individuals from making the small boats crossing. And I think we've seen several effectively gimmicks put in place over the last 12 months from this Labour government that have done very little to actually stop the boats. And I think, unfortunately, we will see likely a continuation of these small fry measures that, whilst grabbing headlines, will actually do very, very little to stop the boats. But then, of course, we've also got, on the other hand, the asylum plan that the Labour government introduced in November. And at the heart of that is the intention to open up safe and legal routes that will actually mean that there are more individuals coming into the country longer, and that system is created in cohort with immigration charities and the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. And at the moment, there is no actual cap that's been put on the numbers that are going to arrive under these safe and legal routes. So we could very well see, actually, in the next 12 months, the numbers being higher than they were last year.
Yeah, there is clearly a lot of work to be done. Is your impression, I mean, you talk about gimmicks that Labour has done, is there nothing they have done in the last 18 months that has made migration even slightly better, whether that's from the illegal side of things or the legal side of things, do you think?
Illegally, I genuinely do struggle to see anything that I think has had a meaningful impact. I think we've seen, the one in, one out deal was obviously a failure with France. We had people that had been deported re-entering the country. We've seen Keir Starmer trying to get a deal with Balkan countries and been rebuked by most of them, apart from North Macedonia. I think that's unlikely to have any real impact, and to see many individuals actually sent to North Macedonia for processing. So I would really be reluctant to say that actually anything useful has happened. When it comes to legal migration, now the government have identified the problems with indefinite leave to remain, and the fact that it is currently achievable within 5 years for many foreign nationals, and that of course gives them the right to claim welfare. We know that we've got 1.3 million foreign nationals in receipt of universal credit. At the moment, that's again open to consultation, and it's looking like many sort of left-wing activist groups are piling in and telling Labour that their plan to extend that period to 10 years is inappropriate and wholly sort of immoral in many ways. So it remains to be seen what actually happens on that front. I would argue that probably what will happen is the Labour Party will create a lot of off-ramps, which still makes it very easy for foreign nationals to get indefinitely to remain and begin claiming benefits after 5 years, which of course is not really actually an ideal situation. But I would argue that illegal immigration is frankly this year going to continue to be the number one issue in British politics. We've seen polling after polling now suggesting that this is really
and yet Keir Starmer didn't mention it in his New Year's address, which is a point I think we can note by not just what he said but what he didn't say. I wonder if I could ask you specifically, Robert, about Alaa Abdel El Fattah. What is the law around this? Can we deport him even though he has UK nationality now given to him under a law that was brought in 2019? Just talk us through this and tell us where we are with this, because Shabana Mahmood has said nothing on this, whereas we've had many senior politicians, the Prime Minister, we've had Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, expressing their delight at the fact that he is in the UK, despite his vile anti-Semitism, his horrendous comments about white people, about British people, and about Jews.
So as the law currently stands, our citizenship laws, you could maybe make the argument that under Section 40 of the Nationality Act in 1981, his presence in the UK isn't conducive to the public good, and that the Home Secretary maybe has a case to revoke it on those grounds that his presence in the UK clearly isn't good. No one wants him in this country. He's not British by any sense of the word. He even admits that himself. But I think actually probably human rights lawyers and individuals that are very keen for British citizenship to remain effectively open to everyone will push back against any effort to actually revoke him whilst the current laws are in place. I do think there is a route through which to remove him. I think if we actually strengthen up how we define conducive to the public good, their removal being conducive to the public good, there is an opportunity to remove him. That obviously won't happen under Labour. Reform Party have said that is something that they would likely do if they came into government. But the problem is at the moment when it comes to removing an individual's citizenship, it's really only done on the basis of sort of if they're involved in explicit terror-related activities or something that is very obviously a national security risk. And I think actually probably a lot of people will be looking at the rules at the moment and see that we've ended up with this chap who is clearly an incredibly unpleasant individual, and thinking, really, what are we doing here? Why are we so powerless to take away a British passport from someone that has said himself he's not British? And I think actually a big conversation that we will probably see over the next couple of weeks, I think this will rumble on, is what can we do to strengthen our ability to remove British citizenship from dual nationals in particular, and individuals such as this chap who are not welcome here and are really actually an affront to our way of life and our values. So I think at the moment, as the law stands and how it's interpreted, it will be probably quite difficult to remove them. I do think actually what we should be looking to do is strengthen those rules that would give us the right to remove him.
Robert, appreciate your contribution, not just today, but in 2025 as well. No doubt we'll talk to you more as the year goes on. Keep a close eye on all of this. That's Robert Bates there. Happy New Year to him. He's Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Lots of people getting in touch, including Paul from Spain. Morning, Peter. Great show. Love the way you say it as it is. Regarding Starmer, he will get MPs and voters back by reducing the cost of living. Is this yet another reset? Which phase are we in now, Paul? That's what I want to know. Are we in phase 4, phase 3? Which are we just all a bit phased? Surely people know this is all spin, says Paul, and Noam and his cabinet are incompetent, gaslighting idiots. Get reform in ASAP. I say Happy New Year, mate. That is Paul in Spain. Lots of people on the continent today. I suppose you're an hour ahead or a couple of hours ahead. We're actually going to speak to someone in Switzerland about what is happening there just after 8 o'clock, because there was that big explosion, of course, in that nightclub. We have a writer and broadcaster who's going to be joining us after 8 o'clock on that. Dave in Lancashire says, morning Peter, look on the bright side, no illegals have crossed the channel this year. Thank God for breakfast clubs, says Dave in Lancashire. Very good. Another person says, and God looked down and saw such a confusion that he sent the son of a toolmaker and he saw that it was worse. God pondered many things but soon sent a special envoy who shone a great glow over the earth and declared an end to all squabbles. God saw that it was better but reserved his right to send his only son indefinitely. That is an interesting start to the year, certainly. Thank you. We love all contributions here at Talk. Thank you very much indeed to everybody who has been in touch. We'll be talking about the travel in just a second because, of course, the Eurostar, big problems over the last few days. We'll talk to Simon Calder, the travel correspondent of The Independent, about that. Also, the snowfall that's expected. And if you're going perhaps home today, maybe you're flying somewhere, getting the train, the bus, or getting in your car, whatever your journey is going to be in New Year's Day. Maybe you're heading back from somewhere you've never been before this 1st of January, shall we say, wink wink. Simon Calder will give you all the travel event advice in just a second here on Talk.
You can't try and snipe at the Conservatives for things that weren't our fault.
Oh, I mean, I haven't got
time.
Don't tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people, then we can solve that problem like that.
Won't be surprised to know I disagree.
Why? Why do you disagree, though? Why do you want our young people left on the scrap heap? The court's time being wasted, laying down a ruling on what is a woman. You and I have been speaking for far too many years about
this.
And
actually, you know, I'm very grateful to you too, because you have always covered this topic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Breakfast on Talk. Thank you so much for your company. A very happy new year. If you're just waking up, it's 9 minutes to 8. It is 2026, the 1st of January. Paul has been in touch and says, good morning, Peter. Paul here from Dorset. As I look forward to my 70th birthday on Saturday, it is with feelings of great trepidation. I'm sure that 2026 will see this Labour government continue to destroy the UK with this extreme left-wing ideology. I wish you and my fellow viewers and listeners the courage to face the horrors that await us, says Paul. Well, this is in reaction to, well, many things, of course, but Keir Starmer, like many other political leaders, has had his political message, his New Year message out there. Adam's been in touch with a voice note on this. You can send voice notes in too, dead easy, through WhatsApp, 0344 499 1000. This is what Adam has to say.
Hi Peter, it's Adam from Bournemouth. Happy New Year, fella. I think we can all see this Labour government's going to be one term. Do I believe Nigel Farage is the answer? All I will say on that, yes, I think he'll have the answers to a few things that we need doing, and if he only does 10% of what needs doing, I think we'll be in a much better scenario. So that tells you where this country's at. Anyway, mate, cheers for a great show.
Thank you very much indeed, Adam. Appreciate that. Let's speak now about the travel, because there are, of course, many problems that have been over the festive period. As in general, loads of engineering works. Eurostar has had a huge problem as well, and of course there's snowfall expected. Simon Calder is with us now, the travel correspondent for The Independent. Simon, a very happy new year to you. Where are you at the moment?
And Happy New Year, Peter. May you have many happy travel experiences, and of course keep us informed about what's happening, as you have been doing so expertly for the past year. So I am at London St Pancras International for the 3rd day in a row.
Goodness me, you must be well acquainted with the tea and coffee stands there. Tell me, what's happening specifically with Eurostar?
Okay, fine. So this is the passenger train operation between London and Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. And starting 2 days before New Year, on Tuesday, we suddenly saw the tunnel was closed, 30 trains cancelled. That represents 25,000 people who didn't get where they needed to be. On top of that, incredibly long delays. So, for instance, there's a bunch of people who set off on Tuesday night to try to get to Paris, and they didn't get there until, well, basically 11's yesterday. A 2-hour 20-minute journey suddenly became 14 hours and 20 minutes. Now, things got back to some normal with delays of up to 80 minutes yesterday. Today, as you can see, if you're watching or maybe here, there's plenty going on. Trains start running in about 7 minutes. First one to Paris, 20 minutes, first one to Brussels. There are some cancellations today, and one train from Amsterdam is actually going to start back from Brussels, so people will need to make a connection there. But it's, compared with what I was seeing on Tuesday, it's doing reasonably well. And I hope that everybody will, by the end of today, get where they needed to be. Honestly, so sad to see so many people stranded when they were trying to get back for their New Year's Eve celebrations.
Well, exactly. Tell us the pressure on trains in general. What's the general picture today right across the country, Simon?
Okay, so the main problem is with engineering work. So Britain's busiest station, London Liverpool Street, is actually closed right up until and including Sunday, apart from the Elizabeth line, which is still running through it. So that is going to cause problems if you're going to and from Stansted Airport, Norwich, Ipswich, Southend, places like that. On the West Coast main line, things get really exciting from today. The engineering work, which have seen the line closed south of Rugby, this is the one which goes from London to the West Midlands, Northwest England, southern Scotland, and that's going to remain closed until Monday. But on top of that, we've got action going on north of Preston, between there and Carlisle, which is going to see the line basically closed from now until mid-January. And they're replacing a bridge over the M6. There's actually going to be a couple of weekend closures of that motorway. And they're running, this is perhaps an interesting thing, they're running a shuttle train along the Settle and Carlisle line, which is going to make things very scenic if you've got a couple of extra hours to spare travelling between Glasgow and London. And as we've been hearing the forecast, I mean, we've got extreme weather warnings for Scotland, basically starting now, continuing right until Sunday. That's pretty much everywhere north of the central belt, Glasgow, Edinburgh. And tomorrow there's going to be extreme cold in a large patch of the sort of southern half of England and Wales and Northern Ireland as well. So Met Office expecting disruption there. It's obviously going to be very tricky if you are driving. No huge problems on the roads at the moment, apart from the M27 in Southampton, near Southampton in Hampshire. That is closed for some major engineering work until the early hours of Sunday morning.
And just a quick word on the flights, if you wouldn't mind. Will that be affected by the snow, perhaps too early to say?
Yeah, there will be problems, not least because of delays with de-icing, which obviously has to be done. And we're seeing that coming in from the eastern US and Canada. Loads of flights this morning coming into Heathrow particularly are delayed by an hour or two. And that's basically because they just have to line up and wait to be de-iced before they can fly. Anybody going to or through Toronto Airport, that continues to have massive problems. Biggest airport in Canada, extremely cold and difficult circumstances there. And so plenty of flights are delayed and cancelled. And finally, there's people waking up, unfortunately, maybe listening to talk in the hotels in the Heathrow area. They were on an Emirates flight yesterday afternoon, which was going to Dubai, didn't get any further than Maidstone, flew around in circles for 2 hours to burn off fuel, and then landed because of a landing gear issue. Everyone's safe. But a pretty awful start to their New Year travel plans.
Certainly sounds pretty grim. We just got about 30 seconds before the news. Simon, where are you looking forward to going to in 2026?
I'm looking forward to going to Armenia. New budget flights are starting up from June. I may sneak out there beforehand to see what awaits you when you get there. Wonderful country by all accounts. Great people, fantastic cuisine, and, relics of the old Soviet Union, which you and many of your listeners and viewers are too young to remember, Peter.
Do you know, I vaguely remember the Berlin Wall coming down when I was about 5 or 6 years old, but certainly that sounds like a very, very interesting trip. Simon, thank you for that. Thanks for all your contributions during 2025, of course, as well, and today. Good luck at St Pancras, and we will talk soon, no doubt. That's Simon Calder, who is the travel correspondent for The Independent. Lots of people getting in touch, including Philip from Tandragee, great part of the world. Used to be the principal of their primary school for 35 years, was a fantastic human being. Happens to be my father. Happy New Year, Peter, says Philip. I can see 2026 bringing in the rise of sectarian politics. For example, the Greens and Reform, the Uni Party only have themselves to blame. Lots more opinions coming your way, and we'll have a live report from Switzerland about what's going on there with that explosion. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and Happy New Year. It is 2026. I'm Peter Cardwell with breakfast this morning here on Talk. There's an awful lot to talk about, including that dreadful explosion in Switzerland. At least 10 people are dead, according to Swiss authorities. We'll get a live report from nearby from a Swiss-British national, a writer and author. Natasha Proietto will be with us in just a second. We'll also talk about the future of politics in this country. Keir Starmer, Kemi Badenoch, Ed Davey and Nigel Farage have their Christmas messages out. We'll dip into some of those and get the views of various politicos like Matthew Torbett and Matthew Hulbert, who will be with us. We'll think about the economy. We'll talk as well about the snow and ice hitting various parts of the country, including London, and look ahead to the sport as well. There were, of course, many celebrations right across the world, including right across the country, to usher in the new year, but many problems remain politically. We've seen Palestine Action supporters at various prisons as well, supporting hunger strikers who are on remand. There's a row as well in London about the fact that it appears that the Israeli flag was used on the many flags that were put on the London Eye, the big wheel, but that the Star of David wasn't used. We're trying to get an answer from the Mayor of London's office on all of that. Loads to discuss, including whether Britain's in decline. That's something Keir Starmer says is going to be reversed this year. Kemi Badenoch seems to be more optimistic as well, and although many problems face them, digital IDs for babies is one story in one of the papers today. What do you think of that? Whatever your points are, whatever your thoughts are, 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 72222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice note, 0344 499 1000. You can send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring on that number as well. The main number, of course, 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss right through until 10 o'clock, but when Phil Dave takes over, plenty to discuss here on Talk. Be part of the conversation this morning, and a very happy new year to you. Well, let's go straight to Switzerland, and a Swiss-British national, writer and author there is Natasha Proietto, who joins me now. Natasha, thank you for joining me this morning. I know you're not too far away from where this has happened. Just tell us where it's happened and what's happened.
So this really sad, tragic events happened just in a town of about 10,000 people. This is locals, so not including tourists, which is it's about 1,500 meters above sea level, and it's above the town of Sierre, which is one of the main towns of the canton of the Valley. So British tourists would know it as, it's kind of on the other side of the mountain to where Zermatt is. That's pretty much where it is geographically. And it would appear that they think about 1:30 a.m. this morning, there was a big explosion in a bar, which is it's on an underground level, which makes it even worse, I guess, in terms of people managing to escape and so on. They don't know, as you've said yourself, the cause is unknown. And there's going to be a press conference at 10 a.m. local Swiss time.
So that's in about an hour's time, isn't it? You're an hour ahead, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll get more detail, but we have some detail already from the Swiss police. Just tell us what they're saying.
Well, the latest quote I saw was they said that there were several injured and several dead. However, it would appear from what the national broadcaster is saying, the police think there were about at least 100 people inside the bar. So that would be we're looking at that kind of number of patrons. There have been fatalities confirmed, but it's the news is, the information is very it's obviously coming in waves.
Yeah,
and
it's a breaking
not very
story
clear at the
and
moment.
developing all the time. I think they've said that 10 people, certainly the Sky News have been told that 10 people are confirmed dead. Just tell us, you've told us a little bit about sort of where it is. What sort of destination is this? Popular, of course, with tourists, and the skiing season on at the moment, incredibly popular in Switzerland.
Yeah, it's really, really tragic. I mean, I've seen some of the footage of outside the bar. It's awful. It's especially awful because it's a lovely place. It's it's full of people that are going there, for lots of different reasons. So you've got a lot of holiday makers, a lot of tourists from all over the world, from the UK, but from everywhere. And you've also got a lot of health clinics up there. So people who go up there from the Swiss hospitals normally who go up there for if after operations to recover, that kind of thing, or for physiotherapy, all these types of things. And you also have a thriving local ski business, obviously, and international ski business. And you have a lot of fun, there's quite a lot of music concerts up there. There's a casino. It's just a lovely little place. And,
and a terrible tragedy that has been visited on it. Natasha, thank you for bringing us up to date on all of that. That's Natasha Proietto, who's a Swiss-British national, writer and author who lives in the Swiss mountains and not too far away from where that dreadful explosion has happened. 10 people confirmed dead there. We will, of course, make sure that we bring you all the details of that as we get them right throughout. There'll be a press conference in about an hour's time. We'll see if we can get that actually, and see if the Swiss police, of course, they may well be speaking in French or German. If they speak in English, we'll try to bring that to you, certainly. I want to talk about politics in this country now, and Keir Starmer has been giving his New Year address. Let's have a quick look at what he's been saying.
In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service. But even more people will feel once again a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better. Feel that the promise of renewal can become a reality. And my government will make it that reality. More police on the streets by March, energy bills down, and the number of new health hubs up in April. More funding for local communities. And with that change, decline will be reversed. That opportunity for you and pride in your community can be restored. I share the frustration about the pace of change. The challenges we face were decades in the making, and renewal is not an overnight job. But putting our country back on a stable footing will become our strength.
There we are, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. We're not playing the whole thing. We played the whole thing at 6 o'clock, and loads of you got in touch saying, can you please not play the 2.5 minute version again? So we won't do that. This is my New Year pledge to you, that we will not play the full 2.5 minutes of Keir Starmer between now and 10 o'clock anyway. Maybe Phil Dave will. Phil Dave is here between 10 and 1. There are lots of people getting in touch about all of this. Cliff in Berkshire says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Cliff. You've been a great correspondent in 2025. I expect you will in 2026 too. He says you will feel happier and more optimistic. You will build your communities. If not, we will switch off your digital ID and you'll be unable to access anything. Now smile and think of those lovely breakfast clubs. Right then, I am thinking about my breakfast, to be brutally honest. Let's speak to Matthew Hulbert, the Liberal Democrat activist and political commentator, joining me this morning. Matthew, a very happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Peter, and of course to your wonderful viewers and listeners.
Matthew, were you inspired by Keir Starmer?
Well, look, I mean, I think the problem that Labour has, Peter, is not that they're not doing anything, and not from my point of view that they're not doing anything that I would consider to be good. I think they are, but they just have an inability to sell it. And, you know, listening to that clip there, I was sat there thinking that it's almost got... I feel terrible saying this in a way, because I guess he can't help it, but, you know, I'm almost fed up of his voice now, and I think when you get to that kind of situation, Peter, it's all lost, isn't it?
I think you might be right, and it's interesting. I had a really, really interesting call a little bit earlier on in the programme from a guy who said, you know, it's not that I don't like we'll talk about Kemi Badenoch in a second, but he says it's not that I don't like Kemi Badenoch. It's not that this person was saying, you know, it's not as if I dislike her or think she's a bad person or anything like that. I'm just sort of fed up. I just don't listen to the Tories anymore, don't listen to Labour, don't listen to the Liberal Democrats anymore. They're kind of all the same. I mean, you would argue the Liberal Democrats are different. We can talk about that if you want. But he was essentially saying this kind of idea that people are just fed up with normal politics. And actually, Dominic Cummings was talking about this. He was in a podcast earlier this week. The former chief advisor to Boris Johnson was talking about this very, very good article in the Times today about that excellent feature. And the person who wrote it is incredibly handsome, debonair, and intelligent. But anyway, the point is, Matthew, that often when it comes to the mainstream parties, people have just stopped listening. And that's a problem, isn't it?
It's a real big problem, and when what we tend to call the political centre, you know, people are turning away from that, I think that's a real worry, because I would argue then that they go to the extremes of both left and right, and of course, you know, I would argue as a Lib Dem that is never good. But I guess I can understand why people might choose to do that. I mean, look, if Starmer delivers, you know, on the more police on the streets, on the lower energy bills, on the health hubs and all the rest of it, great, I would welcome that. But the question is, can his government go out and sell it? Can he go out and sell it?
And actually, I think it's a very good point, actually, Matthew. And after a year and a half, he's still talking about what he inherited from the Conservatives. And look, it takes a long time to turn a ship, but is he even turning it in the right direction? What about the other parties? You talked about the left, you talked about what you say are the extremes. Maybe you would say that about your party. I certainly would. Maybe you would, your party, by which I mean your party rather than the Liberal Democrats. The Green Party as well. Zach Polanski, former Liberal Democrat, of course. For the Liberal Democrats themselves, and that's the party you're part of, this is presumably quite a worry for them.
It is, but look, I expect we'll make gains in May. I expect that. I guess the question will be, you know, what level of gains those are at. There's an outside possibility that we might be part of government in Wales after May as well. So, I mean, this
would you be happy with that? Because I think we're in a situation in Wales where Plaid Cymru may well come first. They may have to enter some sort of coalition, the whole electoral system changing there. We're going to see, I think, in 2026, quite dramatic shifts in Scotland and Wales, in local government in England as well. We're going to see a lot of different things happening. Reform will do very well. I'm sure the Greens will as well. Would you be happy for the Lib Dems to be part of a coalition in Wales, perhaps even in nationally after the next general election? That's not outside the realms of possibility if Labour get in, or some sort of confidence and supply deal. I mean, given what happened last time and the absolute drubbing the Lib Dems got, would you be happy for them to join coalitions?
Well, as an ordinary Lib Dem member, I guess I'd say it depends what coalitions those are. I mean, I think, you know, as much as I didn't like much that the coalition did, it did bring in same-sex marriage, and I of course welcome that. So it depends on what the government is, but there's an outside chance in Wales that it could be a Plaid Green Lib Dem government. I think I'd welcome that.
Okay. Matthew, what is your greatest hope politically for 2026? What do you want to see happening without necessarily being party political? I'm sure in May you want the Lib Dems to do really well at the local elections. We'll take that as read. But what do you say is your sort of greatest hope politically for 2026?
Well, it is that the centre does manage to hold, that what I would call mainstream moderates, usual regular politics is able to reassert itself. But it'll only do that, Peter, if it manages to sell a vision which brings back those people who have felt left behind by all the mainstream parties. And that's a big challenge for Keir Starmer, for Kemi Badenoch, for Ed Davey, and others as well. So I'll be interested in watching.
Matthew, thank you. Happy New Year to you. Hope you have a very good 2026, and thank you for all your contributions in 2025 as well. No doubt we'll be hearing a lot more from you in 2026, including in the studio as well. That's Matthew Hulbert there, the Liberal Democrat activist and political commentator. John says, oh, Peter, that video of Starmer and all his usual hand gestures and monotonous voice just grates on me. Can't believe anything he says anyway. That's John in Newcastle. Adrian Baird. Hello, Adrian. Adrian's a regular texter. He says, sorry, I just had to mute Sir Keir on his reappearance. Happy New Year, says Adrian. We're trying our best to cover the news whilst not annoying you, because at 6 o'clock we showed the full 2.5 5-minute version of Keir Starmer, and believe me, there was quite a reaction, even that early in the morning. Maybe it's people who have maybe a few sore heads perhaps as well, or maybe Keir Starmer's giving them a sore head, I don't know. Keith in the Philippines says next there will be compulsory chipping of babies, not to make them crawl faster, for identity and carbon footprint. Nonsense. I mean, if you think that sounds crazy, look, have a look at the front page of the Daily Mail. Digital ID for babies. What do you think about that? This is ministers discussing what the paper calls a sinister new plan in secret meetings. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call if you want to discuss that. And Terry in Slough says, hi Peter, in my opinion, the only growth industry in 2026 under this useless Labour government will be poverty. That's Terry in Slough. Interesting, Terry, the financial aspect is something we're going to talk about very, very soon. Justin Urquhart-Stewart, who's an economist, is going to be with us to look about what growth is actually going to look like, if at all, in 2026, and we'll get his tips on how you can economise as well, perhaps. Justin will be with us in just a second, and I want to hear more from you as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Send me your voice notes and your WhatsApp text messages on that number as well, and send me texts too, please, on 87222 with the word talk in your text. Stay with us.
I have confidence in the Conservatives, and I have confidence in the energy and combativeness of Kemi.
But the public don't seem to be. The public don't seem to agree with you.
Let's see. Let's see.
Now, the Royal Soap Opera meets the Epstein files.
Prince Andrew's ties to Epstein already represent one of the monarchy's greatest reputational meltdowns.
This 10-page birthday letter you wrote to Jeffrey Epstein makes a pretty cringeworthy reading.
I find them very embarrassing to see.
First convicted, first indicted, you continued a business and personal friendship.
It was not a business.
Not a business relationship.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you so much to everybody who has been in touch. We'll get to more of your calls, texts, tweets and voice notes in just a few minutes' time. There's plenty of time between now and 10 o'clock to get your points across. What are your hopes for the new year when you've listened perhaps to Keir Starmer, or like Adrian, put him on mute? What do you think about what he's saying, what the different political leaders are saying? I think maybe for balance we should probably hear from Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage as well. We'll hear, actually let's play Kemi Badenoch now, in fact. We'll hear from her now, and then at the end of this section I'll do Nigel Farage's one as well, just so we hear from the three main party political leaders. The Liberal Democrats would argue they're in there as well, but actually with the polls I think we can safely say Reform UK are in there. So let's hear from Kemi Badenoch now, the leader of the Conservative Party, her New Year's message, and let me know what you think about this. 0344 499 1000. Kemi Badenoch.
Happy New Year. There is a lot to look forward to this year. No, not Labour's tax rises, but a Winter Olympics, a World Cup, and for political geeks, local elections. Last year was difficult for many people. No growth, higher taxes, and record unemployment, with lots of people losing their jobs. Many in our country are finding it harder and harder to imagine life getting better. But we shouldn't lose hope. Britain is not destined for decline. We are a great country full of talent, humour and strength. Things can change, but only if we have a plan for change. That's why my Conservative team are working on a policy programme to get Britain working again. A plan that will back business and fix our economy so we can fund our armed forces, police, schools, NHS and build something that we feel proud of. Don't let the politics of grievance tell you that we're destined to stay the same. Things can change, but you also need to vote for the change you want to see in 2026. I'm not giving up on our country, and I hope you won't either. I'm wishing you all the very best for 2026. Happy New Year.
Kemi Badenoch there, the leader of the Conservative Party. And we will play Nigel Farage's New Year message very, very shortly. Lots of people getting in touch. Paul says Matthew Hulbert's comments that the Liberal Democrats' contribution to the last coalition government was same-sex marriage. It says it all. What about jobs, growth, health and education, etc.? Well, I would argue actually David Cameron had a very, very big role. The Lib Dems always want to take credit for that, but actually the Conservatives did a huge amount to get same-sex marriage over the line. Not the world's most important thing necessarily, but I think a good development in our society. You may disagree. Mike says, morning Peter, 2026, those of us with gas boilers will now have a surcharge on our bills to subsidise heat pumps. My question is, if no one else is buying these heat pumps, where does the money go? Whose pocket is it filling? Happy New Year, says Mike. Well, thank you. And all those economic questions are big ones. Justin Urquhart-Stewart is an economist. He's also chairman of the Regionally Investment Platform. Very happy New Year to you, Justin.
And to you.
Hope you're well.
Very well.
Listen, tell me about, Keir Starmer says, you know, growth is important. He says the economy is going to be magically wonderful and bills are going to go down. I mean, as Carol from Liverpool very wisely pointed out a little bit earlier on, actually that £150 cold homes payment is actually for some people who are on the lowest incomes, but it's not for everybody. And actually the kind of help the government's giving is peels into insignificance when you look at the big economic problems that are and the lack of growth. Tell us your thoughts about where the economy is now, what Starmer's been saying, and what 2026 is going to look like.
Well, effectively, the economy has stalled. It was a fascinating reaction I saw last night at a packed restaurant, but you suddenly realise there were only half the number of staff there. Why? Because of national insurance. And then add to that the extra charges were going to come in terms of rates for those businesses in the first quarter. And you can see that the retail end of the market is going to be very heavily hit. And remember, 60% of our economy is based on the consumer. So, you know, you can see the rocks ahead of us. And I'm afraid everything they're doing at the moment is diametrically the opposite. And the other thing you have to do is actually focus on the largest employer in this country, which is smaller businesses. We set up a lot of smaller businesses. You can help those, not by giving them money. You can actually give them tax breaks, enterprise investment schemes and things like that, which actually allow businesses to set up, and it doesn't cost the government a penny unless those companies go bust, some which will. But actually quite a lot won't. That will actually get more money moving into the economy, getting some confidence in there. And once you start getting that, it's amazing how things change. At the moment, what you're hearing, I'm afraid, everything it seems to be, it sounds incredible, because it is incredible, because it doesn't seem to be working. Why? Because there's nothing practical in there, which you can actually see.
And the practical nature and the lack of practicality, to me, I'm not an economist like you, I'm not an expert on the economy, but really, really straightforwardly, a blind man on a galloping horse can tell if you hammer businesses that have already been hammered, like the nighttime industries, the restaurants, the bars, the pubs. Yep. If they've had a really tough time during COVID. The cost of running one of them is now about 40% more than it was before the COVID lockdowns. If you then slap business rates on them, if you then raise the minimum wage, and if you then say, national insurance rises, employer contributions are going to go up. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out that that is going to be seriously problematic. And the lack of practicality and the lack, I would argue, of practical understanding of how small businesses work, which are the backbone of our economy, that to me is a major problem with our government at the moment.
It is, and go and talk to any of those businesses and you'll hear that same story.
I often do, and they tell me exactly that.
Exactly, and so what do they have to do is try and change it. And again, we've been through those issues in terms of actually just trying to make life easier for people to be able to do so, raise money. Interest rates coming down is one thing, but that's not going to make any real material difference. What you need to do is get people setting up more businesses, giving them the confidence to do so, and also making sure this is international as well. confidence so people wish to invest in Britain. At the moment, internationally, people are looking at Britain and saying, yeah, okay, nice place, nice people, jolly good. I think we'll go somewhere else at the moment because we can't see where your growth is coming from. Unless you can actually get that confidence back in there, it's going to be really very difficult indeed. Now, good news is we've got some good hotspots, the technology hotspots around the country, where we set up new businesses. We're very good at these sort of things. These need more capital coming in. Doesn't need government capital again. You can do it by way of tax breaks. And again, so therefore you can encourage the positive elements, and that's not based in the southeast, that's all over the country, and you've got hotspots in places like the universities in Belfast, some excellent businesses there, all of which just need that more confidence coming through, given that by not by way of government money, by readjusting the tax system so it gives them those tax breaks, and they will then, because they're then earning more money and they're employing more people, those people will actually then be paying tax, and the government tax rises will.
I mean, it's not rocket science, and it makes perfect sense. The government doesn't seem to get it, though. Why is that, do you think? Do you think this is ideological? Do you think this is just stupidity? Is this just a lack of understanding? Because when I speak to people all the time, people who are, either running a business themselves or people who are representatives such as the Nighttime Industries Association, spoke to them the other day. Other people saying, look, we go to government all the time. I was speaking to someone actually who's an industry body person who says, like, I was in the Department of Business and we said, if you do this stuff that was in the budget, not just this year but last year as well, it is going to result in these problems. Like, what is it here? What is the problem, Justin?
Well, it really is ideological, because some of the debates I've been having with people, and you can hear them saying, well, tax the rich more. And you try and explain to them, look, tax doesn't make you wealthy. Create wealth, you'll be able to get more tax. Do it the other way round. Merely just sort of saying tax the rich and the city gets in red braces and see how much more money we can squeeze out of them, that's fine. It doesn't grow the economy. To get the way to actually encourage more wealth, well, this isn't a bad term. Encourage more wealth, and then you'll actually get more money coming in by way of taxation. And I'm afraid I have to say one of the issues that came out last year, and the Tories are talking about, but it's nothing new, is things like stamp duty, a useless tax. Get more people buying and selling houses. It's got a great multiplier on it, because when you move house, you have to actually change the kitchen, the bathroom, and the painting and all. So you employ more people who will be being paid and being paid more tax, more speed of money through the economy. And again, once you start doing that, you've got the multiplier of more tax coming in, more people being employed. Again, this isn't very difficult, but it is ideological. There is this break about, actually, the filthy rich must pay more. And, excuse me, actually, let's have some more filthy rich paying more tax. Get more filthy rich here and you'll get more taxation coming in. It's not that difficult. It's happened before.
You're absolutely right, Justin. Thank you very much indeed for your analysis there. That's Justin Urquhart-Stewart there, who's an economist and chairman at the Regionally Investment Platform. Actually, Justin, just before you go, how was your cat last night with the fireworks? Was he okay?
No, but extremely upset indeed. It took it out on me a little bit later. The bloodstains on the back of my shirt, I'm afraid.
Oh, no.
Signs of it.
Yeah, this is a real problem. I know you live in London, I do too, and the fireworks were incredibly loud in my part of London anyway, but the cat's okay.
No, it's sitting there looking very depressed indeed, so I think we're going to have a shot of coffee each.
Or maybe some dreamies. Justin, thank you very much indeed, and a very happy New Year to you. David in Worcestershire says, Kemi's New Year message, whilst being positive, is good. She ends with vote for change, while her Conservative councillors are cancelling elections, postponing, if you insist, with the democratic process of voting the Conservatives are running away from, same as the dreadful Labour government. David, you're right, we can have that dispute on postpone versus cancel. That's been a leitmotif of the morning, but nonetheless, you're right, there are at least 2 Conservative councils who have said, yes, let's change the date of the election, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that should happen, and if there are 7-year terms, there should be an election after 5 years, even if it's only for 2 years. I know it's an expensive thing, but democracy is far more important than the price of an election, in my view. Dean in Salford says, Happy New Year, Peter. How do you tell when Keir Starmer is lying? His lips start moving. Please don't play it again, says Dean. Dean, I'm afraid I'm going to have to probably play it again at 9 o'clock, but that's the last time, and my New Year's resolution is to only play it one more time, if that's all right with you. It probably isn't all right with you, but we do have to cover the news for the people who are only getting up at 9 o'clock, we're afraid. But whether you've just switched on your radio or television, or your phone or your tablet, or however you're watching or listening to us, you're very, very welcome to the programme. It's just gone 8:30, and I want to speak to William in Swansea now. He's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. William, very happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
What would you like to say?
Basically, the Bill of Rights. Thomas Paine, 1791, in his Rights of Man, he called the so-called English Constitution a myth, a fiction, a mishmash of ancient laws, customs and statutes like the Magna Carta and Bill of Rights, 1689, and monarchical traditions rather than a coherent, people-driven framework. One other paragraph. In common sense, he describes it as overtly complex, derived from ancient tyrannies, and ultimately dominated by...
William, I absolutely love a history lesson. I am a historian, but what's the relevance to today?
Well, the point is that unless we have a written constitution in hard copy, the written constitution, Bill of Rights, limits the power of politicians. In other words, right now, politicians are telling us what to do. We should be limiting their power with a written constitution in hard copy so that people can't decide, oh, well, you're not going to have a trial by jury. Oh, we're not going to delay
elections. Yeah. So you think a written constitution would be a good way forward?
I think a written constitution would limit the power of politicians, and as long as we can limit the power of politicians, we may be in a position at some point to change the laws of how we are governed. For example, the Prime Minister has a ring-fence pension pot. Nobody in the United Kingdom has a ring-fence pension pot.
They had to pass a piece of legislation specifically for that, but that was before he was Prime Minister.
No, irrespective, yes, okay, but irrespective, the law of the land now is that politicians, right, have a ring-fence pension pot, but people don't.
Yeah.
That's not democratic.
Okay.
And if you want to control these, the likes of Mr. Starmer, you have to have something in hard copy that he cannot turn back on.
Okay.
In other words, we the people, right? America again, we the people.
Yeah.
The Bill of Rights was designed specifically to limit the power of politicians, and that's what it's about.
Okay.
And all the way through, if you go through our history, you will see that at every step they've always used the fact that we don't have a constitution in hard copy to limit the power of politicians as a way of tyranny. Okay?
William, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and a very happy new year to you. An interesting thought on the first of the year. We've been playing the, don't worry, I'm not going to play Keir Starmer's again. Don't worry, not until 9 o'clock. I'll play it one more time at 9 o'clock in only 28 seconds. Do bear with me. But Nigel Farage has one of these messages as well. We've played Kemi Badenoch as well. So I just want to give you the full, the three biggest parties. And this is Nigel Farage's New Year address.
I can't remember the country ever being gloomier. People are getting poorer. More people are becoming unemployed, inflation is proving sticky, and our debt is running completely out of control with a Chancellor who doesn't seem to have a clue what she's doing. Worse than that, people are frightened now to walk down the street wearing a watch, wearing jewellery. Oh, and by the way, if you say anything rude on Facebook, you may well get a knock at the door. We're the people offering hope. We're the people offering change. And 2025 showed you, with those county elections, which we won comfortably, what we are capable of. As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs, county elections, thousands of council seats all over the country. And yet what are we now seeing? We're seeing a Labour government saying to those councils, if you want to cancel the elections, in some cases for the second year in a row, you can do so. And already, East and West Sussex, controlled by the Conservatives, have said, thank you very much, we'll cancel the elections. That is the kind of authoritarian country that we are now.
Thank you to Darren in Norwich, who says, how are working people going to be better off in 2026? Already we have scheduled increases in mobiles and broadband of about £5 each in March and the same next year. Everything else will probably go up. More money in working people's pockets. Nice one, says Darren in Norwich. Darren, I tell you something. If you're paying more than £10 a month for your mobile, you're being ripped off. Okay? What you need to do, I did this years ago, what you need to do is buy a second-hand handset from obviously a reputable place. Make sure it's not a stolen one. Make sure it's a reputable place that you buy it from, and get a SIM, put it in, and there's some really good deals. Go on moneysavingexpert.com. Martin Lewis. I never make a financial decision without going to moneysavingexpert.com. It's Martin Lewis's website. It's impartial advice. It's absolutely brilliant. And my phone, I have a phone, I think it's £8 a month, something like that, maybe less. No, I have two phones because long and boring reasons, but one of them's £8 a month and the other one is something like £6.50 or something. Honestly, you've got to do it. Keep your bills down. There's some really good tips on there. moneysavingexpert.com. They have an email that comes out every week as well. Something like 7 million people get it or something. I get it. It's really, really good to save money, especially in these straitened times. Lots of people just sending in messages simply saying Happy New Year, and that's a lovely, lovely thing, and thank you for that, including to Kaz in Staffordshire, who says Happy New Year to you all the best for 2026. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. We're going to talk more about Labour with Matthew Torbett, the former Labour advisor, the political commentator, will be with us in just a second. Maybe he's watched the full 2.5 minutes of Keir Starmer. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Peter Cardwell. Happy New Year. A very big welcome to 2026. If you're just joining us, it is 21 minutes to 9. The big news story this morning is an explosion in Switzerland. I've just received more information from our guest a little bit earlier on there, Natasha Proieto. She is saying that local media are saying that 40 people are dead in this explosion. It was at a nightclub and 100 people injured. That is what the local media are saying in Switzerland. So we had a report from Switzerland earlier on. If there are any developments on that, of course, we'll bring that to you. The estimate of the dead is there of 40 people. That's a horrendous thing. We know there is a press conference coming up in about 20 minutes' time. If it's in English, we'll try and bring that to you. But this is a horrendous thing that has happened, an explosion. Apparently nothing sinister in terms of terrorist attack. That's been ruled out by Swiss authorities. But this is this nightclub. It's distressing content just if you're watching it on the screen at the moment. Some people may find it distressing. There are a big fire there at a nightclub in a ski resort, and the official death toll is about 10, but local media are saying could be as high as 40. These death tolls, of course, do tend to go up, and of course we'll bring you more news on that as it comes through. I want to speak to Matthew Torbett now, who is a former Labour advisor and a political commentator, about the Labour Party and about the government, because Keir Starmer, like many other leaders, has been putting out his New Year message. Don't worry, we're not going to play it again until 9 o'clock, and not for a little while, and we're only going to play 30 seconds of it. Matthew, we've had complaints already this morning about us playing the full 2.5 minutes of Keir Starmer. We've got it down to 28 seconds now, and we get a clear view of what he's saying. Are people going to listen, do you think? And a very happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Peter. I'd love to tell you if people would listen. Unfortunately, I've not heard it either, and that's not sort of out.
You mean you weren't listening at 6 o'clock this morning? You were asleep? What? Am I doing this in vain?
I'm afraid I was very poorly researched this morning. I was enjoying myself with my partner last night. I was doing more important things than listening to kids.
Are you goading me to play this 28 seconds? Are you saying you want to hear it? I will summarise it for you. He says, getting Britain back on track. We need to begin to feel the positive change. We will feel better in 2026. There's a promise of renewal. We've got to realise that promise of renewal. There's going to be more funding for local communities. Decline will be reversed. He talked about the £150 off energy bills, which Carol in Liverpool contacted me and said, hold on a second, that's only for people on low incomes. It's not for everybody. We need to be honest about that, and perhaps Keir Starmer isn't being. So again, I suppose, you know, when I say are people going to listen, and a former Labour advisor hasn't even listened to it himself, which is perfectly fine. I mean, you're entitled to do other things, but nonetheless, is the country going to listen? Or have we perhaps, as one caller said to me earlier today, actually stopped listening to the mainstream politicians? We're listening perhaps to Nigel Farage, we're listening perhaps to Zach Belansky and others, but actually are the mainstream parties getting a look in?
I think there's absolutely less of a tolerance for politicians, full stop. And I do think, on a serious note, that becoming Prime Minister in this country, regardless of who you are, it's largely become ungovernable. And people are fed up. People are less patient than they ever have been. They're at the end of their wits when it comes to their economic situation. Are people going to listen? I think with Keir Starmer in particular, no. I remember thinking back to, I think it was maybe on your show, I said my fear is that the winter fuel allowance as a very early decision could become terminal. And I fear that, having looked at his approval rating at about 12-16% or whatever it is, it has been terminal, and people have made their minds up early from a decision that was made straight off the bat. He's going to have to do a lot of work to turn it round, and ultimately he's got to be up against his own MPs, because at the moment the Parliamentary Labour Party and the backbenchers are the ones that run the Labour Party.
That does seem to be the way things are happening. We've got people who, you know, I really like Graham Stringer, for example. I think he speaks a lot of common sense. He's the MP for Blakely. He is someone who has a sort of megaphone at the moment. But you've also got people on the left of the Labour Party making their voices heard. You've got Louise Hay, for example, the former Transport Secretary, criticising Keir Starmer on a number of fronts. You've got Lucy Powell as well as the Deputy Leader, perhaps not on message. The tail is wagging the dog here.
No, it is, and you know, I remember thinking at election time, a very large PLP doesn't necessarily mean a very happy one, and you will have your different factions unhappy at what's going on. And I think ultimately I'd say both Graham Stringer and Louise Hay speak for quite large sections of the country, because what people don't want is managed decline, which is what the Labour Party, and I would argue Rishi Sunak, was offering previously. Because the economic situation is tricky, what people want is change, and that's actually what Labour promised at the last election. What they didn't want is change for the worse, which is how people are feeling at the moment.
Matthew, I wonder what you make of what Zach Belansky has said. He's the leader of the Green Party, talking about he says he could work with Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham, of course, isn't an MP. He's the Mayor of Greater Manchester. There's an awful lot of what-ifs that would have to happen for him to become an MP and leader of the Labour Party. But interesting, there'll be a lot of people in the Labour Party, particularly on the left, who will presumably be interested to hear that, if not happy to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't come as a massive surprise. I know Belansky had ruled out working with Starmer before now. I mean, Andy Burnham has previously spoken about a platform where there'd be a 50% tax rate, huge house building programme when it comes to social housing and nationalisation of utilities. So that's very much in line with a lot of the things that Belansky would probably like. I think the broader message Belansky's putting forward is, look, we need to work together to lock out reform. And it's up to MPs if they wish to do that or how they want to go about that. I think it may be one of the best routes considering Labour's current position, and relying on other parties to help them if there isn't a majority after the next election. And Andy Burnham isn't an MP at the moment, but I'm more than happy to make a New Year prediction in that Andy Burnham will stand for a seat in Westminster and he will not be blocked by the National Executive Committee. He will have a free run. I have no qualms
this
about
year,
that.
You think?
I would have thought so. I think people's understanding has always been that May is the most obvious option. That will be, you know, unfortunately, when we do very badly in the local and the elections in Wales and Scotland. And Starmer's going to be under pressure to go, and I think it would be the wise thing for him to do.
Okay, interesting. So you don't think he'll last the year, or you don't think he should last the year?
I don't think he should. I can absolutely see circumstances in which, Labour MPs haven't got the conkers, to put it bluntly, to sort of try and get rid of him or to move and feel under pressure by doing so. I can see him surviving the full term, unfortunately. I can see a situation where that happens. But I think in the current climate, looking at the poll rating, how deeply unpopular, the most unpopular Prime Minister we've ever had, you're not going to win an election, unfortunately, come 2028, 2029. So it would be wise to let somebody else take over the reins. I think Andy Burnham is the best option because you cannot tie any of the unpopular decisions that this government has made.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's Matthew Torbett there, who's political commentator, ex-Labour advisor. Thanks for your contribution and many good wishes to you and for a very happy new year. Thank you to Brian, who says, good morning, Peter, and a very happy new year to you and all at Talk. Thank you, Brian. You too. My goodness, Starmer could talk a glass eye to sleep. Great show. Keep up the work in 2026. Brian in Sheffield, just about to start a park run while listening to your show. Well, I imagine, Brian, you have a lot more energy than me and perhaps Keir Starmer, it must be said. He sent me 2 running emojis there, so that's good stuff, Brian. I mean, New Year's Day, 10 to 9 in the morning, you're going for a run. That's a good start to the year. That's very, very well done. I should take inspiration from you. I had a big serving of trifle last night, and I really shouldn't have. My friend made the world's largest trifle, and I had some of it. In fact, I think I had 2 helpings. It was just delicious. But obviously, as we all know, calories over the festive period don't count. Graham in Bushy says, can you play the Starmer message in full, please? I need help getting back to sleep, says Graham in Bushy. No, Graham, we will not do it. We don't want you to go back to sleep. We want you to stay awake, to be alive and well and happy to stay with us right through until 10 o'clock when Phil Dave takes over. You can go to sleep after that if you like. I'm joking. I want you to stay with Phil, of course, right through until 1 o'clock. He is here in the mid-morning slot. I'm in the mid-morning slot tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, 10 till 1, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and then on Drive all next week. And that's, of course, when Jeremy starts the breakfast show. He'll be in the chair at this exact time, 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday, and then Mark Dolan Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's an exciting development. Starting on Monday, Jeremy will be here permanently in the breakfast chair. I'm just here today. Lots more to discuss, including what's happening at Chelsea, the Premier League, Anthony Joshua, and indeed the weather. And Joe Wheeler, who is my favourite meteorologist and one of my favourite people, actually. She's just a fantastic human being. She's going to talk us through the weather in just a few minutes' time. Stay with us.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say.
So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thanks to everybody who has been in touch, including Nat, who is in Tel Aviv in Israel, who is watching. She is an hour ahead of us, of course. Morning, Peter. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Nat. Thank you for your message. You're annoyingly chirpy this morning. I could get used to waking up to your voice in the mornings, but not if you play Keir Starmer. The man's voice will take away anyone's chirpiness, along with the will to live. That is a fairly straightforward, brutal, but nonetheless amusing message from Nat. A very happy New Year to you. you and all our viewers and listeners right around the world. Of course, there are loads of people in the UK who view and listen to our programmes, but there are lots of people right around the world. I've heard from people in Spain today, Switzerland, Israel. We have people in Australia who watch and listen to us. Wherever you are, a very, very happy New Year, and thank you for your loyalty to Talk, and tell your friends, because we're always very, very welcoming to new viewers and listeners. And if you've never texted me or give me a ring, today's the day. It's your New Year's resolution to give me a shout, 0344 499 1000. You might want to stay inside today, actually, and watch Talk. I'm here between now and 10 o'clock, and then Phil Dave's here between 10 and 1 because of the weather. And Joe Wheeler, my favourite meteorologist, is with us now to tell us what is happening, because snow and ice is a problem in the south of the country. Tell us the picture, Joe, and a very happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The south isn't experiencing the wintry weather just yet. It's tomorrow that we have a warning for parts of the southeast, the Midlands, and also parts of Wales. But we've been waiting on this cold weather for such a long time. Thought it might arrive for Christmas, and it didn't. And finally, as we go into New Year, we are seeing this Arctic air working its way down from the north. Now, Scotland already is seeing quite a lot of snow showers today. We've got brisk northerly winds there, so there's a risk of blizzards and also drifting snow. So very dodgy driving conditions if you're in the north, if you've been in the north for Hogmanay and now have to make your way home. Not really ideal, because those temperatures during the day, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees Celsius, that's about the best you can hope for, and sub-zero overnight. So warnings for snow and ice for much of Scotland, for much of the rest of the week and indeed the weekend. But it's this warning tomorrow, which is parts of Northern Ireland into parts of Wales, the Midlands and the southeast. Now, this is a small feature passing through this cold air, which will be established by that time. Could bring 2 or 3 centimetres of snow, possibly up to 5. And of course, if that happens in the capital, in London, it's going to be incredibly exciting. I suggest you take a picture, because it won't happen very often.
That's it. And what's the picture? Obviously, you talked about tomorrow coming into the weekend. What can we expect next week when most people are going back to work?
Well, now that's a very interesting one, and one that we weather people have been watching so very closely, because the setup we've got at the moment is high pressure out towards the west, low pressure out towards the east, which, if you follow the wind direction, shows how you're forcing that northerly. But it has to stay a northerly for it to remain so cold. As soon as that high pressure out towards the west nudges away towards Greenland a little bit, it'll bring in a northwesterly flow, and that's a milder flow. And at that point, we start to let Atlantic systems back in. Now, once we've got the cold air across us, any nudge from any type of rain is likely to cause a fairly widespread snow event. So, of course, we're watching this very carefully. But at the moment, we look favoured to hold on to the cold weather for the foreseeable future until things eventually change. And, of course, we'll give you plenty of a heads up on that.
Absolutely, we'll talk more about that. Joe, I wonder if we could just take Joe full screen there, because I'm fascinated by the backdrop and where you are. We've got a classically beautiful, ethereal figure, but enough about you. What about that statue behind you?
This is a statue. She looked very friendly, and obviously it's 2026. I thought I'd say hello. I'm actually in an orangery. I was out celebrating New Year last night, so I stopped over. This is an orangery. I've got a lemon tree behind me. There are orange trees down the way there. There are also vines in here too. It's a very, very beautiful area. Obviously, it's all glassed off. Not terribly warm today, it has to be said.
Yeah, well, fabulous, my goodness. Well, a very happy New Year to you, Joe, and thank you very, very much for your contributions in 2025. No doubt we'll talk much more this year as well. Happy New Year to you. Thanks to everybody who's been in touch about our other contributors as well. Tracy in Somerset says, I love Matthew Talbot. He speaks a lot of sense. I agree with you, Tracy. I disagree with his politics, but he talks a lot of sense, as you correctly say. On the Constitution as well, Paul says a written Constitution could be amended. There have been 27 amendments to the US Constitution, which were decided by legislatures. That means politicians and not the people. And Nat has been in touch from Tel Aviv to say it's 2 hours ahead, not 1 hour ahead, which is factual. And I'm happy to take that on the chin. Let's talk now about the sport.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Well, I'm delighted Dan King, who is the Chelsea FC correspondent for The Sun, joins me now. Dan, is Maresca going to leave Chelsea?
He is. Maybe today, maybe later this month, maybe at the end of the season as originally planned. But I think we can be pretty confident he's not going to be Chelsea manager at the start of next season. It's just a question whether he and his superiors can talk through their issues and at least get him to get him to the press conference tomorrow and get him to the Man City game on Sunday, but I don't think he's going to be staying there long term, no.
What are the factors behind this, Dan?
Well, it's partly the demands of being Chelsea manager. Every job is challenging, but Chelsea is uniquely challenging in that you are asked to produce consistent results and win, but with a squad which is constantly being changed, with lots and lots of player trading, and a squad which is very young. And I know from Maresca's side, he feels like he's not getting enough credit from anyone, be it some supporters or the owners, for what he's done. But the classic problem he's got at the moment is that the results are bad, and he's going public with his discontent, what he perceives as a lack of support during what's been a very dodgy run in December. And those two things together do not make for job security, especially when your boss is Badad Agbali, who is very, very demanding. And it's not going to be a surprise when a fifth permanent manager in less than 4 years of this ownership is appointed in the coming months.
Tell us about Anthony Joshua and what the latest is after that crash.
The latest is that he has been released from hospital to recover at home, and he's also in the last 12 hours or so has issued a statement just expressing his shock and sadness at the death of two of his very close friends in the crash. And it's just an ongoing situation there where he's got to recover physically from his minor injuries, but also start dealing mentally with the immense toll it will take. And the investigation into the causes of the accident is also continuing.
It's a dreadful thing. I saw quite a number of the people at his local training gym just devastated by what has happened. Dan, thank you for that report, and a very happy new year to you as well. We'll talk more in 2026, I hope. Linda says, happy, healthy new year, Peter. Thank you for reporting the truth instead of lies and propaganda. That's from a fellow cat lover, Linda in Deal. Well, thank you, Linda. And Joanna in Salisbury says, hi, Cardi P. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Joanna. I thought you were supposed to be a substantial warning prior to upsetting images. Please give us a warning when Starmer is about to come on so we can switch off the sound or go and make the tea. My dog's had enough. Some clowns started the fireworks at 9 o'clock last night without warning, as well as a massive display at midnight. Yeah, it was about 20 minutes of sustained bangs. Last night my cat was not happy, let me tell you, but very happily, for me anyway, stayed with me and was certainly agitated, but stayed as calm as he could, and I was sort of holding him for the whole time. And I know so many people, they love to celebrate New Year. Of course, I'm not being a killjoy, I'm not being bah humbug about this, but fireworks can be very, very difficult for animals who, of course, don't know what's going on and where these things are coming from. Joanna, thank you. I'm giving you fair warning. After the news, in a few minutes' time, we are going to play just 28 seconds of Keir Starmer, because there will be people just joining us at 9 o'clock who, I'm afraid, need to know the news. But we've had loads of people saying, please don't play the full 2.5 minutes of Keir Starmer. I promise you I won't, but we will play just a little bit, an amuse-bouche, as it were, of Keir Starmer, just to get us into the discussion. We'll also talk about the Royals as well. There have been an intruder at Kensington Palace. That's the splash in the sun. We'll talk about that in just a second here on Talk. Stay with us.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, this is Talk Breakfast. I'm Peter Cardwell. It's just gone 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for your company and a very happy new year. Welcome to 2026. Lots to talk about politically. We also have that dreadful explosion in Cross-Montana in Switzerland. We know at least 10 people are dead. The bar could hold 300 people. We think 100 of them are injured. There's a no-fly zone over the Alpine town as well. A major emergency response is still underway. We'll bring you the latest details on that as we get them into our newsroom. We'll talk as well about the royal story on the front page of The Sun here. Intruder at Wills and Kate's Palace, man tackled in gardens. This is a exclusive story, front page of The Sun. An intruder twice got into the grounds of William and Kate's Kensington Palace residence just days before Christmas, and the man, Derek Egan, seen with a heavy rucksack, climbed over a fence before he was nicked in the gardens on both days. He was actually on bail for the first incident when he went in again. We'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about everything else politically as well. Keir Starmer's New Year address, 28-second clip coming. I'll give you fair warning of it. Lots of people not too happy with that. We'll talk about lobbying as well. These people, shady characters behind the scenes. There's a contemporary political thriller out, a new book by a lobbyist himself, Lionel Zetter. We'll talk about crime and law and order this year as well, and get all of your comments on whatever you want to talk about. We're following the story, of course, as well, about what is happening with those protesters in regard to the Palestine Action hunger strikers. Will bring you all the latest on that, and of course I want your thoughts on all of this. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 72222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell, and send me a voice note, please, less than a minute if you would, on the main number. You can ring me on the main number, or you can send me a WhatsApp text message on the main number, which is, of course, 0344 499 1000. So lots of ways to get in touch in the next 55 minutes between now and 10 o'clock. Well, I'm in the chair just today. Phil Dave will take over at 10 o'clock. He's here between 10 and 1. And, of course, the big exciting news is that Jeremy takes over permanently in the breakfast slot from Monday morning at 6 a.m. He's there 4 days a week. Mark Dolan Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Ian Collins will be here tomorrow, just filling in on breakfast. His usual slot is, of course, 1 to 4. But Jeremy here for the brand new breakfast show, the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, from Monday at 6 a.m. And just one story we talked about just a little bit earlier on. There's controversy online about the wheel, the London Eye last night. Of course, the New Year celebrations in London, and people saying, hold on a second, the Israeli flag was on there, but the Star of David was not. We have a spokesman for City Hall who has told us a range of flags were displayed on the London Eye to represent the wide variety of countries of origin of people who live in and contribute to the success of London. These animated flags were small and moving, so were not all entirely clear at every point as they gradually formed into the Union flag. The Star of David apparently was not removed. We're told the flags are not always entirely clear as they're small and moving in animation, and apparently it affected a number of blue and white flags, including Guatemala, Argentina and Honduras. So that is what the information that's coming out of the Mayor of London's office. But certainly there were many celebrations right up and down the country and indeed across the world, and there are lots of people wishing us Happy New Year. including Pull in Spain and Luge, I think is how you pronounce it. You can tell me if that's wrong, from Romsey in Hampshire as well. I'll read out more of those messages a little bit later on, but I want to talk about the story on the front page of the Sun newspaper this morning. Intruder at Wills and Kate's Palace, a man tackled in the gardens, an intruder who twice got into the grounds of William and Kate's Kensington Palace residence just days before Christmas. Well, our royal correspondent is Rupert Bell, who's with me now. Rupert, thank you very much indeed for joining me. What can you tell us about this?
Well, it appears that, as you mentioned just a few moments ago, Derek Egan, a 39-year-old, broke into the grounds. He had a rucksack. Then he was put out on bail, and then he went in again. So it appears he went in twice. Now, it's just before Christmas, but probably significantly, unlike Prince and Princess of Wales, wouldn't have been in residence because, of course, they've now moved into Forest Lodge in Windsor and probably might have even been heading up to Sandringham. You don't know the exact timetable, but it's likely they were in their house near Windsor Castle rather than being in Kensington Palace. They very much see that as their main residence now. So, and just before Christmas. So from that point of view, they weren't under any threat. But the fact is, this guy has managed to break in twice. It must be slightly disconcerting. Well, you just wonder what's going on security-wise, and why was he put out on bail? We don't know what was in the rucksack. Was it something that was something sinister? We don't know. But in terms of, once again, royal security is an issue. And, you know, when you look at where Prince and Princess of Wales are living now, not everybody is happy with the security cordon.
Yeah, there's a 6 mile exclusion zone around there, and there's a lot of people who aren't happy with that, as you say. There are quite a lot of other royals who live, more minor royals who live in Kensington Palace as well, aren't there?
Yes, there are. It is, you know, at one stage, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex live there. So it's very much, you know, the lesser royals are in residence. So it does have, you know, it is an important place where many do live. So it's not saying, it is still a concern that this person was able to get in, because other members of the royal family could have been put in some sort of difficulty. But to happen twice, that does seem to me to be not entirely good from a security perspective, that this same guy was able to get in on two
and apparently on bail for the first incident. Rupert, I know you know quite a lot about skiing and various other sports as well. I know you're familiar with this alpine resort in Switzerland. We had a report from Switzerland a little bit earlier on. We know at least 10 people are dead, in perhaps 100 people injured, maybe more. Local media are saying 40 people may be dead. There's a press conference ongoing at the moment, and I know the top team behind the glass are monitoring that, and if there's any more information that comes out of that, we'll bring it to you. A no-fly zone over the town. From your knowledge of this town, what can you tell us?
Well, I've spent many years skiing in Crans-Montana. Great, very popular ski resort, and was actually started by the British way back when. And this particular nightclub, it's quite near the main telecabine up to the top of the mountain, near a roundabout. I've actually stayed very near that particular nightclub. Now, my nightclub days are in Crom, sadly behind me, but I do know, and I have spent many a New Year's Eve in nightclubs in Switzerland, so I know, and in Crans-Montana, so I know what, you know, they get very, very busy. What happened? Obviously, it's horrendous what's happened, but Crans is a very popular resort, not only with British tourists, but from all around the world, and obviously from a Swiss perspective, it does have, you know, it's quite an expensive place to stay in terms of it's full of designer shops and everything. It used to be extremely popular with Russians back in the day, so it is a very popular resort, and New Year's Eve in Switzerland is a big deal. So this place would have been extremely busy, and it's absolutely horrendous. But as I say, for Crans-Montana, with the, you know, this is a big tourist time for them, you know, and obviously no skiing today taking place, absolute tragedy. But from a resort perspective, it is one of the top resorts in Switzerland, and has been for a very long time. And I'm sure my sympathy goes out to many people. I know some of the ski instructors there. There's some lovely people who live there. It's a fabulous place to go skiing. They also hold a big golf tournament there in the spring, as in the autumn as well. So it's got an all-round vibe about it. But this will be an absolute tragedy for the people of Switzerland, and in particular for the people of Crans-Montana.
Well, thank you, Rupert, for that perspective. We heard from Natasha Proieto in Switzerland a little bit earlier on in the programme as well, and we'll bring you the latest details on all of that. Rupert, thank you. That's Rupert Bell, our royal correspondent who knows Crans-Montana very well. And the Swiss police are due to start that news conference shortly. We will, of course, bring you any new information that comes out of that, and it comes after police have told various news organisations at least 10 people are dead and 10 others are injured. Local media are saying it could be as many as 40 dead and 100 injured. It'll be interesting to see when the figures come out of that. It's a dreadful, dreadful tragedy happening in that ski resort, and we will bring you, of course, the latest information as we get it. Paul says, can Starmer really be so out of touch with reality? Talking about the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, he has, of course, his Christmas message. Fair warning, a lot of people don't want us to show this, but we're going to show you a short clip just so you know what he's saying, and then we can discuss it with James Price, who's a former government advisor for the Conservatives. Paul says the gaslighting with this Labour Party is beyond belief. Happy New Year. Thank you, Paul, for that. Let's hear this very short clip of Keir Starmer's New Year message.
In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service. But even more people will feel once again a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better. Feel that the promise of renewal can become a reality. And my government will make it that reality.
Keir Starmer there, the Prime Minister, with his New Year message. We will, of course, bring you Kemi Badenoch in just a second. Let's get the reaction from James Price, who's a former special advisor, former government advisor to the Conservatives. James, you're not a natural supporter of Keir Starmer, of course, but do you think he has a point? Do you think he's going to reverse this decline?
Well, good morning, my friend. It's good to see you again, and happy New Year.
And you too, Happy New Year. Sorry, I didn't say Happy New Year. That was very rude.
No, I don't think we don't need to go too overboard on New Year's. I mean, I do think the Soviet Union.
I think on New Year's Day you can say Happy New Year.
I think the Soviet Union tried to big it up into an alternative version of Christmas to back itself, so we don't need to go too down the Happy New Year's. I'll say Merry Christmas as well, because we are still in those 12 days of Christmas.
That's
right. It doesn't feel much like it when you see Keir Starmer. Why he always wears literally a black shirt for these sorts of announcements. I don't think it looks very, very professional. It doesn't look very cool. I don't understand, with Lord Ali spending all that money on suits for him, why he still insists on wearing that one. Maybe it's a navy blue shirt. And then in terms of the content of what he's talking about, I also take umbrage when he keeps saying my government, which is a fundamental misunderstanding.
It's His Majesty's government, yeah.
Yeah. But on the actual content itself, I don't see what he's doing that's going to be different, that's going to make things get any better. People may remember after the summer he started talking about phase 2 of my government begins, and 3 days later, or something like that, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, was forced to resign in shame and scandal and all the rest of it, until and unless he realises that the kind of administrative state, some would call it the deep state, but I think that has sort of too many silly connotations to it, but the kind of the blob, some may call it, you'll remember this from your time in government as well, until we get to grips with the fact that there are many, many people who have other interests in terms of their own personal pet projects, or saying, oh, actually, you can't do that because, the EU or now the ECHR or some other bits and bobs that stops governments from actually getting things done. Until all of that stuff gets swept away, you're not going to see any progress at all. And I think Starmer himself almost admitted this when he was in front of the liaison committee in Parliament, which is a sort of super committee of all the other select committees, saying, yeah, I'm really frustrated. You try and pull a lever and nothing happens. Well, yeah, so to try and fix that. But he doesn't have any kind of idea that he is going to change any of the bureaucracy to may be able to get things done at all. So no, sadly, I think we're going to get more of the same.
I wonder what your thoughts are on Kemi Badenoch's message. Let's have a quick look at what she's been saying. She's the leader of the Conservatives, of course, leader of the opposition. This is part of her New Year's message.
Happy New Year. There is a lot to look forward to this year. No, not Labour's tax rises, but a Winter Olympics, a World Cup, and for political geeks, local elections. Last year was difficult for many people. No growth, higher taxes, and record unemployment, with lots of people losing their jobs. Many in our country are finding it harder and harder to imagine life getting better. But we shouldn't lose hope. Britain is not destined for decline. We are a great country full of talent, humour and strength. Things can change, but only if we have a plan for change. That's why my Conservative team are working on a policy programme to get Britain working again. A plan that will back business and fix our economy so we can fund our armed forces, police, schools, NHS and build something that we feel proud of. Don't let the politics of grievance tell you that we're destined to stay the same. Things can change, but you also need to vote for the change you want to see in 2026. I'm not giving up on our country, and I hope you won't either. I'm wishing you all the very best for 2026. Happy New Year.
Kemi Badenoch. Now, I've been pretty critical of her at various points, but that was a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah, I like you. I've not been entirely fawning about her performance, especially early on as leader, but she is getting a lot better, and you can see it there. She seems to be enjoying that a bit more. And of course, she, you know, this sounds a bit silly, but you can, even people who are not watching the video but just hearing, you can hear in her voice she's occasionally smiling, which is not something I think I've seen Starmer do at any point. And I know it's a real a very difficult job that Starmer has, almost as difficult, of course, as being leader of the opposition. But that sense of optimism is sorely and crucially lacking in the government, and at least Kemi Badenoch is making a nod to it there. It reminds me, because I'm obviously a complete parody of a Tory that I am, just behind me I've got a cushion with Margaret Thatcher's face on it, and that old 1979 slogan, "Don't just hope for a better life, vote for one." And I think that's what Kemi Badenoch is trying to channel there.
There were mugs on sale at Conservative Party conference. I was there in Manchester, and there was that picture of Margaret Thatcher with the same colouring on the mug saying, "Don't just hope for a cup of tea, make one," which I thought was very good. Finally, let's have a look at what Nigel Farage has been saying. Get your reaction to that, James.
I can't remember the country ever being gloomier. People are getting poorer, more people are becoming unemployed, inflation is proving sticky, and our debt is running completely out of control with a Chancellor who doesn't seem to have a clue what she's doing. Worse than that, people are frightened now to walk down the street wearing a watch, wearing jewellery. Oh, and by the way, if you say anything rude on Facebook, you may well get a knock at the door. We're the people offering hope. We're the people offering change. And 2025 showed you, with those county elections, which we won comfortably, what we are capable of. As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs, county elections, thousands of council seats all over the country. And yet what are we now seeing? We're seeing a Labour government saying to those councils, if you want to cancel the elections, in some cases for the second year in a row, you can do so. And already, East and West Sussex, controlled by the Conservatives, have said, thank you very much, we'll cancel the elections. That is the kind of authoritarian country that we are now.
What do you make of what Farage has been saying there, James?
Yeah, well, I think, again, he highlights these local elections, as Kemi did, but he goes even bigger and harder onto them. And it is going to be a big make-or-break moment for all the parties, for all the party leaders. There's a chance that Reform could, even take power in Wales, which would just be massive. They could become, perhaps in some polling, the official opposition in Scotland, which is an extraordinary thing to counter. From
a very low base, yeah.
Exactly right. Pinching, of course, a Conservative Lord offered to go and run that operation up there for them. And if they manage to do that, then who knows what happens to both the Prime Minister and perhaps even to the leader of the opposition. And the fact that Labour are cancelling these elections yet again, it is
I would argue they're postponing them rather than cancelling them.
I'm sure that's what they would say. But it is extraordinary, isn't it? And again, if Reform were in power somewhere and they did half of the things that Labour managed to do throughout 2025, postponing elections, getting rid of jury trials in many cases.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine back in the day when you and I were both special advisors, can you imagine if a Justice Secretary for the Conservatives said jury trials are not going to happen in many, many cases? Can you imagine how much Labour would have gone for them? I think the Conservatives and Reform UK have missed a trick here. I think they should be making a lot more noise about this, actually.
Yeah, you're completely right. Look, jury trials go back at least to, Ethelred in the sort of late 900s. in this country, and I think they were sort of first written about in the Eumenides by Aeschylus, 2,500 years ago.
That's the kind of information you don't get from every guest. Look at that, the tip of his tongue there.
But I'm sure David Lammy knows better than 2,500 years of Western civilization, right?
Oh, absolutely,
it is absolutely extraordinary. And as you say, if the tourism reform had done half of what Labour have done, half of the scandals that have come out, again, no party is clean, and they've all been bashed. Nathan Gill in Wales for taking money from Russians for reform, and the Tories, as we remember in the last election, had our fair share of morons who should never have been given a seat. But, I did a quiz for my mum and dad who went to go and spend New Year's Eve with their neighbours. They always do a quiz, and they asked me to do a political round for them. And in it, I said, okay, well, what was the homelessness minister sacked for? Making people homeless. What was the anti-corruption minister sacked for? A corruption allegation in Bangladesh. What was the housing minister fired for? Having too many houses of her own and not enough for everybody else. And went on, and I think after a while, the guests started to get the theme of the questions.
Yes,
but the scandals that have piled up is extraordinary. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see both Reform and the Tories on an upward trend. I think really go into those local elections, and Labour must be absolutely petrified. So no wonder
it'll be fascinating to see. James, thank you, James Price there with a marvellous history lesson and some superb political analysis as well. Former government advisor James Price was a special advisor under the Conservatives. Whatever you think of what he said there, 0344 499 1000. Jess in Dover has a really good point and says, please stop them all using the word change without specifying what the change is intended. Happy New Year, Jess, really good point. Amanda in London says, on Keir Starmer's message might as well have been for illegal immigrants, the only beneficiaries of this government. Amanda, you will have noticed, as I did, the thing he didn't mention at all, not even a little bit, in that message, and we've watched the full 2.5-minute version as well, is immigration. He doesn't mention immigration once, and that is the number one issue that people watching and listening to this station, but also people in the country now care about. It's bigger than the economy, it's bigger than the NHS. Immigration, pollsters ask that question all the time, and people say immigration is the big one, but the Prime Minister doesn't deem it necessary to mention that in his New Year message. Simon in Durham says, serious question, what is renewal apart from an empty, vacuous term? Is it a reminder to book out your library book, or does renewal make any sense to the ordinary people on the street? Keir really is an automaton, says Simon in Durham. David in the Cotswolds says, Happy New Year. By the way, which planet does Keir Starmer live on? Was he speaking about the United Kingdom? And Luge in Romsey in Hampshire, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says, Happy New Year to everyone at Talk. Here's hoping 2026 brings rather more competence than we've seen from the politicians currently in power. What an ongoing embarrassment they continue to be. All the best and keep holding them to account. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Also, I'll be very careful how I read this message out. But Jason in the Lake District says, wishing you a very happy New Year, Peter. If you think that first of the first 25 was a Wednesday, it's not, it's a Thursday, but if it was a Wednesday and the first 3 days of the year were WTF and a clear prediction of things to come, surely TFS, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, TFS is thank Flip Starmer has gone. I slightly amended what Jason wrote there because it's 24 minutes past 9 in the morning. Plenty more to discuss, and I want to discuss it with you between now and 10 o'clock, 0344 499 1000. We'll go back to Switzerland as well to find out what's happened there. Hospitals across the country dealing with an influx of injured people after that dreadful explosion in Crans-Montana. We're still waiting for that police press conference, but whether it happens or whether it doesn't, we will have our Swiss voice who was on earlier on, Natasha Proieto, who will be the press conference, I'm told, has just started there actually in Switzerland, and we will get the latest on that before 10 o'clock anyway, when Phil Dave takes over. We're going to take a little dive into the world of lobbying in a minute. There's a new book, a contemporary political thriller called The Lobbyist, by a lobbyist called Lionel Zetter. We'll talk to him a little bit about his novel and also what this murky world is and what influence these people have. Stay with us here on Talk.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
This is a Talk exclusive. We've been looking at...
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you so much for all your Happy New Year messages. Really appreciate it, as do everyone here at the station, the top team behind the glass, working hard on New Year's Day. Really appreciate that. There's so much to talk about politically as well as internationally. Of course, across Switzerland, hospitals are bracing themselves, dealing, in fact, with an influx of injured people. That police press conference from the Swiss authorities after that dreadful explosion in a Swiss nightclub is happening. Several dozen are presumed dead. We know that press conference is taking place at the moment. The Swiss police say there's a major response. There's a no-fly zone across that area in Crans-Montana, as well, a popular ski resort. We'll get the latest from that in just a few minutes' time. For the meantime, I just want to talk very briefly about a new book, actually, which is about lobbying. Now, a lot of people say, you know, what is lobbying? I know, because I work in politics. I've done a bit of lobbying myself. And in fact, Lionel Zetter, who is the author of this new book, The Lobbyist, we do a little bit of work together. I sometimes present events and write articles for an outfit called Atticus Partners, which Lionel's part of as well. But Lionel mentioned this new book that's out. And I think, Lionel, a lot of people don't really know what the lobbying is. And you're bringing it alive in this new book, The Lobbyist. Tell us about that, and a Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year to you too, Peter. Lobbying, yeah. Really, I wrote a book, which was a textbook, not a novel, called Lobbying, the Art of Political Persuasion. And that is basically what we do. Lobbyists have zero power, but they do have influence, and lobbyists help to shape government policy and also to amend legislation. That's our job, that's what we do. It's not the most well-known of professions, but it's an important one, because without lobbyists, governments are entirely dependent on civil servants. And civil servants, as you and I will both know, having been special advisors in the past, civil servants have their own agenda. So it's very important for...
But a lot of people will say, of course, Lionel, that lobbyists have their own agenda as well, and that they're paid guns for hire to get their message across. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Is it transparent enough? Is there enough that is done to make sure that it is transparent? And I just wonder what your novel kind of exposes about it.
Yeah, lobbying is basically pretty transparent. We have two professional bodies. We have a register of interest. We have the Office of the Registrar Consultant Lobbyist. So there is a great deal of oversight, which the vast majority of lobbyists actually subscribe to. But there is a soft underbelly. Not every lobbyist is registered. Not every lobbyist declares their clients. And they are the people, I think, who operate like my main character in the book, who is a very bad person indeed. He operates in the shadows. He uses all the dirty tricks. His world of Westminster is a world of sex, drug, and rock and roll. So it's probably slightly unlike the world that you and I are used to, but trust me, there are lobbyists who do operate very much in the shadows.
Damien Beaufort is the main character in your book. Why did you decide to write it? And do you think people will learn as much from it as they did from your other book, perhaps?
I hope so, Peter. The other book is a very weighty tome, and it's basically an academic work. This book is very fast-paced, very contemporary, very easy to read. It touches on the world of politics, lobbying, and indeed espionage, and deals with the relationship between those three, which is probably a lot closer than most people realise.
Lionel, I wish you all the very best with it. I know you're a first-time author, and I hope it goes well. I know Christmas, of course, is a big time for all of us authors. We want lots of people to buy our books, certainly. But this is a lobbyist turned spy in your book as well. So you actually have quite a number of different worlds in it, as you say. How much is lobbying? How much is politics? How much is spying?
Probably a third. But the relationship between the three is key. So I am a failed politician. I've been a special advisor. I have been a lobbyist. Some of my closer relatives have been involved in the world of espionage, so I know a little bit about something of that world. And indeed, I was interviewed by MI6, who quite rightly decided that I was not made of the right stuff and rejected my application.
Lionel, thank you very much indeed. That's Lionel Zeder there. He's got a new book out called The Lobbyist. Just for absolute clarity and declaration, of course, I do a bit of work for an outfit called Atticus Partners. That's all online. It's all declared. My bosses know about it and all the rest of it. And Lionel's part of that organisation as well. I generally write some articles for them and share some events for them as well. Lionel, thank you for that. Author of The Lobbyist. Happy New Year to you. And we have a bit more information now from Switzerland. More than 100 people have been injured in this Swiss ski resort fire. The press conference is ongoing at the moment. In a few minutes' time, we're going to get an update from Switzerland. Natasha Proieto, the author and writer who has been following this story for us. She lives nearby. She's a Swiss-British national, and we know that dozens of people are presumed dead in that fire. We will, of course, bring you the latest from that and about that in just a few minutes' time. We're going to talk to Mike Neville in a second as well about the whole issue of crime in our society, law and order, where we are with that, and the Palestine Action protesters, those who have been protesting in favour of them, the people who are on hunger strike, and those who are chanting about the Intifada as well, which is something that the leader of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, has said could result in their arrest. He certainly talked about that previously, as has the head of Greater Manchester Police, and we'll bring you the latest from Switzerland. So stay with us here on Talk. Talk Breakfast. Thank you so much for your company. It is the first day of 2026, and thank you for it. Appreciate all of your messages that are coming in about all the issues, including the political stories today and also the international stories. The big news story today is that awful fire. The authorities in Switzerland have said it's not terrorism, it's some sort of explosion, which then resulted in what they expect to be dozens of people presumed dead. That is a fire in a nightclub in Crans-Montana, which is a Swiss ski resort. We'll be going to Switzerland in a few minutes' time to get the absolute latest there, but more than 100 people have been injured and dozens are presumed dead. It is a dreadful story, and we'll go back to Switzerland, as I say, in a few minutes to Natasha Proieto and get her view again. She joined us a little bit earlier in the programme. For the meantime, I want to talk a little bit about the crime situation in this country, and specifically about people supporting hunger strikers in Pentonville, Newhall Prison. We can just look at a little bit of footage now, actually, of the police and some of the battles that have been taking place, including last night, actually, when there have been protesters who have been protesting in favour of these people on remand who are on hunger strike. Let's have a quick look at that now.
support the hunger strike. We 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 support the hunger strike.
So these protesters, if you can see it on the screen, the police are there. They're trying to push them back. This is Newhall Prison. The police forming a line at Newhall Prison with the protesters, trying to stop them reaching the prison. There are various people, including one in a cafe there, that scarf that many pro-Palestinian people wear, trying to push them back. They've got posters of many of those people, Palestinian flags, posters of the people who are on hunger strike. The police attempting to hold the line there. We know at one point some of those protesters were shouting about the Intifada, various people being pushed back. We know that Sir Mark Rowley, who is the head of the Metropolitan Police, had said that if people were chanting about Intifada, they were likely to be arrested. We don't know about numbers of arrests last night or whether there were arrests, but we certainly know the police were under pressure at that particular point. Mike Neville is with me now, who is, of course, a former Metropolitan Police detective. Mike, thank you for joining me on New Year's Day. Happy New Year to you. Clear problems and challenges for the police, including at Newhall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Newhall is near Wakefield, so you've got the West Yorkshire Police dealing with that. But of course, they've got the issues of that being near places like Bradford, so you've got a high-density Muslim population where they can draw off protesters, and then joined in often by these sort of champagne socialists in this sort of awful red-green alliance that we see. So the officers there should have been celebrating New Year's Eve, and there they are dealing with the usual suspects outside that prison.
Yes, and clearly this is going to continue. It's interesting that, I don't know in that particular clip itself, it's quite a long clip, but certainly there are a number of people talking about the Intifada. We don't know if arrests have been made, but clearly Sir Mark Rowley and indeed the Greater Manchester Police Chief, Sir Stephen Watson, talking about that. A clear challenge for other police forces as well, some of whom haven't actually clarified whether the same thing would lead to an arrest, Mike.
Exactly. Well, the West Yorkshire Chief Constable has just been awarded a knighthood, and I was on the other night about that. He's been one of the most politically correct and woke Chief Constables. He's one of these who supported not recruiting white men. So I imagine it will be quite difficult for him to say that he will do those things. He will make those arrests for saying support the Intifada and from the river to the sea.
That's the police force, actually, that you say. I mean, I know they do recruit some white people, but certainly they encourage people to apply, and there was a period, wasn't there, when people who weren't white could apply for jobs in the police and for uniformed roles as constables before people who weren't white could apply before people who were white, and that just seems to be totally unfair.
Well, what it sums up, Peter, is their state of mind. Their state of mind is politically correct, part of the liberal elite, and what people want to see is, of course, fairness. And what you see here, of course, is again people from the Jewish community will be afraid of this because they've seen again that the police will side with other people rather than the great masses of the population, and that's the message from the Chief Constable. But here you have just the junior officers on scene trying to deal with this incident, and it just demonstrates the polarisation of society, I suppose, that you've got these crazy people who support these individuals who are demonstrating for the destruction of a country, and it's just not good enough.
It's interesting, actually, when you look at one of the big immigration issues, which feeds into crime as well, I think, and hopefully it's okay if I ask you about it. This is about Alaa Abdel El Fattah, the Egyptian who's been given citizenship here. I mean, some of the stuff that he's put online and has admitted putting online, it was when he talked about, essentially, actions I took as a young man. He was in his 30s. He was a fully grown adult, a fully formed brain when he's talked about the fact that he denied the Holocaust, the fact that he said he didn't like white people, he didn't like British people, and as recently as a couple of days ago, his Facebook account liked a tweet that said, or liked a posting that said it was a Zionist conspiracy against him. I mean, there are people who've been in prison, like Lucy Connolly, for example. She pled guilty, of course, who've been in prison for tweets, yet we're inviting this person to our country. I mean, when you look forward to 2026 and see how law and order is going in this country, and you see stories like that, it seems very topsy-turvy, very upside down, Mike.
It's insane, isn't it? You have people telling us it's really important that what Nigel Farage said 50 years ago as a schoolboy, and then they're telling us that, well, you know, he said these things 15 years ago. Nigel Farage never said to kill people, to burn things down.
And the point is, Nigel Farage denies saying that stuff, whereas we know for sure it was Alaa Abdul Al Fattah. He hasn't denied the fact that he made those tweets, he made those posts as a sentient adult, not a 13-year-old.
Peter, it's just the hypocrisy of the left. You know, if somebody says something that they agree with, everything's okay. If somebody said something 50, 60, 100 years ago, they're all on top of it. But the trouble is, and you were discussing policing and crime, is that the people who have these bizarre and weird views, they're actually in charge of policing and crime. And so this is why we get this terrible problem. And you say about immigration, at least because of being on Talk and stations like this, we're able to discuss the problems that immigration has brought with crime. And it's a massive issue that there's the amount of violent crime, sexual crime in this country is increased dramatically as we've allowed mass immigration to take place.
Listen, thank you, Mike, very much for what you're saying there. I really appreciate that, and appreciate your contributions in 2025. No doubt they will continue in 2026, and Happy New Year to you. Derek is in Manchester and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. We've heard an awful lot from politicians this morning in their New Year messages, Derek. We've got to be able to hold them accountable, of course. What are your thoughts on where we are as we look forward to 2026?
Well, exactly what you just said there. They should be held accountable. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that someone can come into the most important jobs in this country, i.e. making decisions for all of us, and not be held accountable for the mess they make of it. I mean, any job you can choose to mention. You know, a solicitor can get sued for making bad decisions. Even up to, you know, a football manager. Yeah, they've got contracts. They've got 4 or 5 year contracts. But at the end of the day, if they mess up and the team keeps losing every week, they're soon got rid of out of them contracts.
Well, you could say, look, there are elections every 5 years or almost every 5 years. Obviously, some of those council elections aren't going to happen as often as that. But, I mean, we did get rid of the last lot. And if the polls are to be believed, we may well get rid of Labour at the next general election.
Yeah, but look at the time scale and what damage can be done. What damage has been done in just a short time with these clowns. And look what damage can be done if we've got to wait another 3 years to get rid of them. I mean, if any job in this world, if you go and get a job and you lie on your CV and you lie and tell a pack of lies to get that job, you'll soon get found out when you start making messes, and the boss is soon going to come up and say, hang on a minute, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me this, you're sacked. End of story. And I'm not being funny, but all these politicians, they're getting a fantastic look at Tony Blair. He virtually wrecked this country. He started the mass immigration, or he was one of the ones that started it. And at the end of the day, that man is living in luxury.
Yeah.
Paid for by us, you know, and it's wrong. It is totally wrong. Any job, you should be held accountable. If you make a mess and you screw up, I mean, on such an important scale, what they're doing to this country will destroy it forever or for a long, long time to come. And I don't think we can ever come back from what they've done to us so far.
Well, it's interesting, Derek. I mean, we're talking about these council elections that are coming up, and some of them, many of them will, of course, go ahead. That would at least send a message. And you look at Wales, for example, and Scotland, things could dramatically change there. And that is a measure of accountability.
Yeah, but it's not accountability at all. They're still going to get...
Well, it is if you can say to people, you're not going to have a job anymore. You know, you're not going to have a job as a councillor. Derek, hold on.
They're never going to get charged with treason, which they should do.
Let me just ask a question. I mean, in terms of the fact that, you know, if you're told you no longer have a job at the end of it, you're no longer a councillor, you're no longer an MP, I mean, that is accountability.
Well, no, it's not. No, how can you say that? You're supposed to be a government advisor or an ex-government advisor. How can you say that? Because
well, it is. If you say you're doing... Hold on, Derek. Look, there should be more accountability. I totally get that. I'm totally with you on that. But if you're saying you no longer have a job at an election, that is accountability.
They do have a job. They just sit on the other benches. They get paid a little bit less.
No, but if they're not an MP anymore, if they say, you know, loads of MPs lost their jobs at the last elections, you're saying we don't want you. Loads of Conservatives, for example, losing their livelihoods.
By the party, the main ones are still getting paid by the party. The main ones that have done the damage are still getting paid by the party.
Well, there are only 121 Conservative MPs elected at the last election. Loads of them won't have any job, and I'm not saying we should feel sympathy for them necessarily. I'm just saying that it is a form of accountability.
They've still got a damn good government pension paid for by muggins.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Derek. Listen, thanks for your points. Appreciate them, really do. That's Derek in Manchester there. And thanks to Michael in Staffordshire. He says, I'm an ex-cop of 30 years. I'm fed up of seeing the usual idiots on protests, draped in Palestinian flags, creating havoc on our streets. I've seen footage of how the German police are now dealing with those protests with a zero-tolerance attitude, something I want our police to adopt. If they want to protest, then limit the numbers to 12 people. Tell them when, where to stand and when to leave. Other than that, arrest them immediately, says Michael. If they support the hunger strike, then why don't they do it as well, says Elliot. Well, you can support something without necessarily taking part in it, and I certainly won't be going on a hunger strike for anything anytime soon. Brian in Sheffield says, quick update on my park run, Peter. I just got my best time in 2026. Very well done, Brian. And Graham in Bushy. Graham, now this is outrageous, this message here. I really cannot endorse this at all. Graham says, do you have any books that you've written, Peter? I mean, now that you've mentioned it, I mean, if I brought it up myself, this would be a breach of Ofcom, but both Political Animals and The Secret Life of Special Advisors are on sale, Graham, now that you've asked, and it is editorially justified, so take that, Ofcom. We're going to talk more about what you want to talk about. We'll get an update from Switzerland as well in a few minutes' time. Stay with us here on Talk.
Breaking news this morning revealing the terrorist attack. 242 people were arrested in the year of June.
Something Jin, all the people who aren't going to prison, but well, there's no prison spaces.
Exclusive, we looking at. I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk Breakfast. Thank you so much for your company here on the very first day of 2026. It is the 1st of January. I hope you had a lovely new year. Maybe you're just waking up right now there is some sad news, and that is from Switzerland. We know that dozens of people have been injured, dozens of people are feared dead, I should say. Over 100 are injured after a fire at Crans-Montana at a nightclub. Let's go live to Switzerland now. Nearby is Natasha Proietto, who's a British national, a British Swiss national, who's been keeping us updated right throughout the morning. Natasha, I know there's been a press conference which has just recently ended there from the authorities. What have they been telling us?
Yeah, so I've taken a few notes. Essentially, things have really clarified. So, number one, tragically, the poll's gone up by rather a lot. So they're talking of dozens dead. I'm not sure what that means, several dozens dead, and at least 100 very seriously injured. So we're not talking just, very, very bad injuries. They have also very clearly stated now that this is not terrorism, according to them. It is a fire, or in some way linked to a fire. However, in the press conference, they've also been extremely clear. So this is the head of basically the legal system in the valley, the prosecutor in the valley. She has said that the government has, the local authorities and the government have opened up an official inquiry into the causes, but it's believed to be a fire. And they have also been very clear that they do not want to speculate on anything. So they don't want to talk about the fire exits. They don't want to talk about if there were pyrotechnics going on. They don't want to talk about anything like that. They're simply, they just said, we're just dealing with this. All the local hospitals are overwhelmed, and they're not answering any questions that the reporters put to them in terms of, the details of this. They're just focusing on the, they also said...
On the here and now. Sorry, go ahead, Natasha.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, as they said in the press conference, there has been kind of a local state of emergency declared. They're telling people, just in case you happen to be a Brit on holiday in Switzerland, avoid any risky activities today so as not to add to the problems at the hospital. And they've also given out a helpline number for anyone who could be affected, for families. I'm just going to read it out just in case.
This is for people in Britain calling who might think there may well be British people involved with this?
Yeah, or people who are on the ground in Switzerland but who maybe can't read in French in the local media or something, just in case. I'll just give it out.
Go ahead.
0848 112 117. Obviously, you can also go online onto news sites and find it, but just in case. And essentially, yes, the last thing to say is that they did say in the press conference that they fear there could be a number of foreign nationals involved, because this is a very touristy area, New Year's celebrations and so on, and they do believe that there are a number of
foreign nationals, and I'm sure the Foreign Office here in the UK is working hard to try to establish if there are British nationals involved in this dreadful explosion. And as you say, several dozen presumed dead, more than 100 injured. Just tell us a little bit about Crans-Montana as an area. We know it's a very popular ski resort, and there will be many British people, including our royal correspondent Rupert Bell, who spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, so it's pronounced Crans-Montana, so without the S, so Crans-Montana.
Okay.
And it's a very, very well-known ski resort. It's a little bit along the lines of Gstaad or Verbier or Zermatt, but it's more kind of young, more funky, more sport, more, as I say, it's more concert type of area. And I know for a fact, living here, I mean, there are so many British tourists here just right now, like there's British tourists everywhere. Also many tourists from Europe, the Far East, from all over the world. And
so at this nightclub, there could well, we don't know, but there could well have been people of many nationalities, and of course Switzerland often just a very international place in general, especially in those ski resorts.
Yeah, tragically, I mean, nothing is confirmed as we speak, but it's highly likely. I mean, when I've been in Crans-Montana in that kind of area, I mean, there you can hear nearly every language on earth. So it's extremely, and there are also things like there are lots of sort of hotel schools, international schools in the region, and so on. So absolutely highly international plague.
Okay, Natasha, thank you for both your reports this morning. That's Natasha Proietto there, who is a Swiss-British national. She's a writer and author who lives in Switzerland, who bring us up to date with all of that. No doubt the Swiss attack will form at least a bit of what Phil Dave is covering over the next 3 hours. Phil, great to see you. What's coming up in your programme?
Yeah, a very good morning, Peter.
And Happy New Year
to you. Look, there's loads coming. Obviously, we're going to keep across what's going on in Switzerland, but there are other stories that people are waking up to this morning that I know the Talk audience are going to want to discuss. So we are going to look at the UK government, how they have vowed to fight a European court challenge over Shamima Begum's citizenship being removed from her. Strasbourg judge is actually examining certain claims that means that they might encourage us to revoke that, so we'll have a look at that. Also, obviously, Sir Keir Starmer has done his New Year message, and in that message he has admitted the frustrations of the slow progress that things are taking. But
have you watched the full 2.5-minute version? That's my question.
I can't bring myself to watch.
So Phil, we played the 2.5-minute version at 6 o'clock,
right?
And we got loads of messages from people saying, "Please don't do that again."
Yes, I really can't watch the whole 2.5. I've seen snippets, I've seen excerpts.
Well, we now have a clip which you can play as well, which is 28 seconds.
Thank goodness for that. I can just about tolerate 28 seconds, I think. But yeah, so the point is that we're going to ask people, based on sort of Starmer saying that, to quote a phrase, things can only get better, we are going to ask what would make your life better in 2026. You know, what would you want to see the government do, and what could they do to improve things? And
here's maybe something that could make your life better in the next few hours. There's an 18-second clip.
Oh, even better.
There's a 28-second clip.
You see, it's true. Things can only get better.
Things can only get
Amazing.
better.
Okay.
And what else is happening?
Yeah, just really quick. There's a couple of things. Obviously, there's a bit of backlash of controversy surrounding the fireworks display in London last night. Because there was a display across the Millennium Wheel that showed all of the flags of different nations. And amongst that, allegedly, apparently, the Star of David was removed from Israel's flag, but City Hall have denied this. But there is some pretty interesting footage doing the rounds, which would suggest otherwise. So be interesting to see what happens for that.
Phil Dave is here on the other side of the news between 10 and 1. I'm in that slot tomorrow. I'll be back at 10 o'clock on this station between 10 and 1 tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. In the meantime, just a couple of very quick messages before we go. Bob says,